Trusty Ape. Welcome Bree, welcome Ember, and the room's open. And yeah, who that be? I don't know who you're talking about over there, but let me at them. I'll go after them too. Fuck 'em. No, seriously. There's too many people just playing around right now out in these YouTube streets. And but yeah. Anyway, uh, this is the show today, I guess. I was gonna do well. So yeah, I had some conflicts about how to do the show today, right? I was gonna do like another open panel, but I've had this question coming up. Somebody brought it up. They were like, talking shit about Dr. Kip, doing what Dr. Kip does, even though he like literally does it professionally, right? Um, but like there's people like, I don't know if these atheists should be out here reading the Bible. That doesn't seem very atheistic of them, does it? And and no, well, I mean, I actually, you'd think like, one of the main things, that you'd be focused on if you were critical of religion is actually knowing about religion, right? It's easy enough to go out here and straw man somebody's position if in fact that is what is happening. But I'd rather be more well informed about the actual positions that I'm being critical of, right? So that's one utility to it. But this is an open room. I mean, you're free to challenge me. Come on in. That was kind of my topic of the day, but really there's a whole lot of other things to talk about as well, which I, also considered tackling. Going through the materials, I've adjusted the playlist accordingly. Is now kind of in order. It's the Bumdy and Bim Job playlist. Just lumping those two right into the same right in the same category there. And I'll still be working on refining the rest of those because I know I have a bunch of other playlists that I have not updated in a very long time and many videos. Okay, yeah, I hear you, Ember. Just let me know if there's anything we can do to support over here, of course. Um, and yeah, anybody's welcome. Whether you are in opposition to biblical studies or the study of other holy texts, or whether you are for them. Um, Regardless of your position, right? I think it's probably, what's the word I'm looking for? It would behoove. Is that? I think that's the one. It would like behoove the believers of a particular faith to actually learn about faiths that are oppositional to their own, right? Because they are once again denying or refuting an argument that they themselves don't fully understand. In that case, like how most Christians will try to sit here and claim with a straight face that obviously, Islam does not worship the same deity when we know that it does. We just know that it does. Yeah, what is the nature of the deity? All of those things may come into question, right? But it's all based on the same ancient texts and the same those same belief systems, that structure that it's all built off of, Judeo-Christian, Islam. See, we don't usually put that one in there, but Abrahamic faith. Yeah, right. The God of Abraham. Who is that guy, Abraham? So, we've got that question. And myself, the past few months, as previously indicated, for those who don't know, I went to a church this morning. That's widely considered to be a like high control cult, one of those. Um, and I haven't seen a lot of that yet. I've seen a little bit of it. I noticed that they are a bit invasive in certain ways, but it's a little more subtle, at least at the stage that I'm at, right? Um, but but I am making a point to try to understand what those folks actually believe, and I've been reading the book that they've put forth, right? And trying to do so with a more open mind. And interestingly enough, that was kind of the topic today's. There's no sermon, but today's discussion within the church was kind of around those ideas of religious liberty and religious tolerance. And so I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that got brought up, and obviously there's like a lot of patriotism going on there 'cause it's like, somebody's 250-year wedding anniversary or something. I don't know. They signed some documents a while ago, and some people are very, very uh, adamant that those documents can never change. They can never be amended or abolished, even though it says within the document itself that if it ever, there's some clause in there where they were like, oh yeah, by the way, if you want to just like amend or abolish this thing, just do that, right? And it says so within the document, but they're like, no, no, we need to keep this thing, especially the thing about God. We definitely need to keep that thing in there because it's very important to them. And these are, the people that we're sharing space with, right? These are people trying to make laws based on their views. And so the more that we know about those views, about why they believe what they believe, the better equipped we are to actually confront those ideas in a mature and intelligent way, and hope that they're able to accept those criticisms and take them seriously as well. Welcome, Tori. Good to see you. Yeah, another open panel. Uh, ironically, that was original music by me in the beginning, by the way. Some of those videos are available on the YouTubes. And I think my playlist is public for my music on here, which kind of links you to other pages that contain my music, and there's definitely more out there. There's also some links in the description to non-YouTube sources that have music by me that I've done over the years. None of it's very recent, but hey, if you want to check that out, check it out. It's everything from, me playing piano to punk rock and a little bit of folk and shit here and there. So our verse of the day from the Christese at Bible Gateway is 1 Thessalonians 4:16-17 in the King James Version says, "For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God." Oh no. "And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord." So I think trump is short for trumpet, uh, I guess. And also, hold on. So he's going to descend from heaven with a shout, but not with his own voice. He needs the voice of the archangel and the trump of himself. And then the dead in Christ. So all of the dead Christians are going to, the zombie Christians, those ones. Yeah, yeah, we remember those ones. Okay. But they're not zombies, they're undead or born again. However that works. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds. So we're floating. Are we floating? Is that what happens there? Also, this is KJV, so I don't know how much I trust. I've come to distrust the KJV a bit, although maybe for the wrong reasons at times. There's a lot of propaganda that's pushed about that. And we'll meet the Lord in the air, and then we shall just ever be with the Lord, rejoining him up there in the cloud. That's our verse of the day. Who do we have? I hear somebody here. Hey. Okay,
Hello.
there we go. Welcome, Ember. Good to see you.
Oh, yeah, likewise. So I have some information on this. As you may know, the English version, especially the King James version, was done by English people, and Trump has a meaning in English of the time. It referred to a loud blast. It's still used today by Londoners to describe a burst of flatulence. But the reason we call a trumpet a trumpet is because of the loud blast of music it makes. So the instrument takes its name from the description of the noise rather than the other way around. So it just
Right,
means a
right.
loud blast in Bible context.
So yeah, I mean, it could be as you said, a fart, a burp. We don't know. But
The
it's
fart
a
of God
boom.
is
It's
hilarious.
booming.
But at the time they
Uh,
did the translation, it just meant a loud blast of noise.
that's hilarious. Yeah, you could just call it a booming or something like that, I guess. Is probably how others
It could be a
might translate
thunderclap.
that.
You'd have to consult a more doctory kind of doctor to find out what it was in Hebrew or what have you. Well, I guess
Right,
these were
right.
originally in Greek, whatever, somebody who speaks the other languages. I can only go back as far as Shakespeare.
Yeah, Thessalonians, I'm thinking that's actually I don't know like specifically where that's one of my like I know less about that particular book, but I guess it is probably New Testament, I guess.
Yeah, I believe that's one of Paul's epistles, but I could be
Right.
mistaken on that. I'm New Testament is not. I was never that kind of minister, so you know.
That was kind of what I wanted to lean into as well today, as far as like what people, um, a lot of the modern, New Age Christians will try to point towards it. Well, it's more about Christ. It's more about Christ, but then they still try to adhere to the Mosaic laws or whatever, right? Or so they say.
Sometimes
And I was like,
the
what do
ones
we
they
know
like.
about this guy Jesus? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I've been seeing little bits and pieces here and there. There's certain groups of Christians who are eschewing the Bible in the same way the Protestants started eschewing the Pope. And their argument is that the first Christians, the first couple of centuries, didn't have a Bible and they still managed to know about Jesus just fine. So, why should they be guided by the edited and curated words chosen by the elitist holy men that the Protestants now don't follow anyway in this old book? Like, if you can know Jesus through the Holy Spirit, you shouldn't need the book to know Jesus. And theologically, their argument sounds pretty good to me.
yeah. It would seem so, but I guess there is that other problem where you do need the Old Testament prophecies in order to legitimize Jesus's position as Messiah, right?
Well, it depends if you want to call Jesus the Messiah, because there was that argument among early Christians about whether he was or not. Muslims today still say he was just a prophet, and that's fine. But the early Christians would have had the Jewish books. Those have been around for hundreds of years longer. So maybe you could make a case for like a Bible without a New Testament and belief in Jesus, but I don't know that that's even necessarily required either, because if the whole thing about the Holy Spirit touching your heart is true, then not only should you be able to be a Christian without any Bible at all, but in fact, you shouldn't need anyone to tell you about Jesus to know about Jesus. The Holy Spirit should just like touch your heart or something, in theory.
Right. One would think, yeah. And there are people who do kind of come to it that way, I guess, right? I mean, even as adults, like some of the uh, people we hear that are converted from other religions say, who have never maybe heard the entirety of the like crucifixion story, and then they kind of go through that whole drama, and that does touch them in such a way that it manages to convert them, right?
It's fascinating, some of the stuff that we've had to look into in the last several months about how certain types of emotional manipulation can get people to disengage their critical thinking skills. And the story of the crucifixion, the passion of the Christ, if you will, is just such a story. It's full of so much pain and so much cruelty and so much suffering that it makes people go, oh, that poor man. And then the guilt trip. He died for your sins. And so they're compelled to like worship him and thank him for going through all that, because it's gone right around their critical thinking and bypassed their spidey senses about, oh shit, I'm being manipulated.
And we do have like more of a tendency. I know in psychology or whatever, they usually say that we tend to seek pleasure and avoid pain, but the type of creatures that we are, being introspective, oftentimes will actually um, view like the our own negative actions of the past and think that maybe we actually deserve much worse than what we are getting, right? There is some like something psychological to that where we feel a lot more guilt than we should oftentimes. I think that's
They
built
may
into
have
us.
something to do with it. I don't know. I'm still struggling to understand the different modes of the human psyche because for a long time I just assumed there were people who had a toxic mindset for whatever reason. Possibly they were traumatized as children, or something bad happened, or they had to deal with whatever the case may be. They were toxic. They had the bully mindset and were happy to twist and deflect and misdirect and misconstrue everything to try to make things out to be a certain way. They were fundamentally dishonest, harmful people. And then there were good people who could make mistakes, who could say the wrong thing, who could hurt people, but would then apologize once they realized what they'd done because they're fundamentally honest people. But having seen people in the last year or so who were of the latter category and seemed to be fundamentally honest, good people who cared about other people, have a switch flip in their head and become these same bullying, dishonest, unhealed trauma, horrible, toxic people. The fact that both people can exist in the same person's head, I'm not sure what to make of that quite yet, and how that applies to witnessing someone else's trauma by proxy, having the story of Jesus's crucifixion read to you. I'm not sure how that's appealing to people. If it's like triggering their empathy and compassion, oh that poor soul, or if they're triggering their inner narcissist and saying that's just like me in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also weird because not only was the crucifixion of Christ not in an isolated event, right? We know that many people were executed that way during that time, but then subsequently, what like the saints and the martyrs later arguably received even worse torture, possibly, right? According to their stories.
Yeah, the I mean the tales vary, and I mean we can't confirm anything in the freaking gospels in the first place, but the fan fiction about what happened to the disciples afterwards is even more far-fetched. And that's not to say it didn't happen, we just have no way to know if it did. The ones we do know about is, Jesus was crucified, but Peter was crucified upside down, which I guess is worse or something. Another disciple, the stories speak. I don't think it's biblical, but he got like boiled in a pot of oil, or something. Like all these horrible, horrible ways to
Right.
go, and they get used for more guilt trip. They died for Jesus, even though what we do know of the stories in no way indicates that. Like maybe Peter was killed because he slept with somebody's wife. We don't know, like, but no one ever asked him to recant
Right.
Jesus. It didn't come up.
Yeah, and I guess the only real evidence we have of people doing something like that is, like say during the Crusades when it was actually the Christians who were definitely torturing people by their own admission and telling them they must accept Christ and they must renounce whatever gods they were worshiping or whatever.
A bit before the Crusades, I dare say. There's that whole, um,
Yeah.
well, it's happened a number of times, but the Christianization of Ireland comes to mind, where St. Patrick, the Englishman, is still hailed as a hero for driving the serpents out of Ireland. And of course, that's always been a euphemism because there have never been serpents in Ireland.
It makes you think about the serpent in the garden too, right? Like what were they
Well,
referencing there?
That's exactly the thing they were trying to invoke, is they were, because the Celtic peoples, the pre-Christian peoples, they really liked symbols that were very curvy and florid and serpent-like, and so there was sort of an equivocation made with the early missionaries to Ireland, saying that their holy symbols are evocative of the serpent in the garden. This is why they're not saved, because they're on the serpent's team.
Ah, yes. Any serpent-like symbolism. Um, all right. I don't know. So, given how little we can really verify about what's contained in the Bible, I mean, historically or whatever, do you still find there's utility in reading and learning about it, even as an atheist?
Yeah, in a couple of different ways. One is, know thy enemy. It's useful to know what the hell the apologists are on about when they say that we're all, subhuman and need to be exterminated from the face of the earth for the good of Jesus, so Jesus can come back, or whatever the case may be. It's useful to know what they're talking about, so we can understand what's happening, and we can deal with the threats as they come. The other is the perspective that Dr. Kip sold me on, which is from an anthropological perspective, because it is, even though it's mythological in nature, it's still the writings of a people in a time for a purpose. And that helps us understand that culture, what they thought, what they valued, how they understood their own mythology, their own creation story, and how they viewed the world broadly, which is really cool in a lot of ways. It helps us understand humanity from another slice of humans they aren't around anymore.
Right, right. So it does give us insights into our own history in some ways, even if those people were flawed in their reasoning or their thinking, right? I mean, it shows some of that, the perspective, the pre-scientific perspective on the world and why and how things happened.
Yeah, we don't get like
Uh,
really useful causative information from that kind of mythology, but occasionally we do get some interesting history. Like apparently, um, and this is apocryphal. I don't know if the story is real or not. It could be. But someone apparently made an archaeological discovery about one of King David's palaces or something by using biblical information. Like the way the story was written, it referenced certain landmarks or something, and the person was able to deduce where one of David's palaces should have been. And to our knowledge, until that time, nobody had ever dug there. There was like a pot store there or something. And by pot, I mean like clay jug kind of pot, a
oh,
pottery
okay.
store. And they like dug a little bit in the basement and found coins from like 500 BCE or whatever, and they were like, oh shit, and they dug more, and TLDR, there was a palace there. So sometimes, even though we don't get like divine revelation, like this is how to cure leprosy kind of thing, we do get bits and pieces of real historical information that sometimes have been lost to history.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes.
Um,
Then the rest
and
of the time we
then
get Jericho's and
what
tires
walls?
and
Yeah.
all that other made up shit.
And another thing I've heard, the third argument there is that from a good number of former fundies who have said that they actually deconverted as a result of fully reading and comprehending the Bible when they had only been kind of had cherry picked verses for so long, and then they actually went and read through it for themselves and found different inconsistencies or things that they found um, you know, morally reprehensible about the deity and the stories, right? The not
Oh,
so popular
for
parts.
sure. My goodness. I mean, there's a number of counter apologists running around these days who say that the surest way to deconvert someone is to get them to actually read the Bible, because so many people only get the 50 or so cherry picked passages for their Bible study for the whole year, and the pastor does the same sermon over and over. Trevor Pullman from Believe It or Not has done a video on this. There's only a handful of sermons, and they just cycle them, and it's wild, but apparently it works. So that's not true for everybody. There are some fundamentalist groups, and a few others who actually do read the whole Bible, and they just own the bad parts. But for a lot of people who've been taught their whole lives that God is love and God is good and God is justice and Jesus died for you, therefore guilt trip, guilt trip, guilt trip, once they start reading Leviticus or even Exodus, they go, holy shit, this God is evil. Even if he's real, I'm not going to worship this monster. And they deconvert. The downside to that happening is, while it's true they're no longer Christians, and in fact, they're no longer Christians because they have a conscience, they aren't automatically secular humanists either. Often they wind up falling into a different pile of woo-woo, like Deepak Chopra stuff, or alternative healing stuff, or UFO cults. I mean, several people in our own group went from Christianity to Wicca and other kinds of paganism, which granted are much less toxic. It's not actually any closer to truth either, you know?
Right, right. Well, I mean, maybe there's some like I want to say like Wicca could be there can be like secular witchcraft, I guess, right? Like
Oh,
it's more like
absolutely. There's a huge
yeah,
growing movement within I won't even say atheists, the nuns community of atheopagans, who are people who have taken the pagan and neo-pagan traditions as a form of like ritual and way to celebrate life, but without any of the supernatural aspects attached to it. Nobody is like actually worshiping Athena or Thor or whatever, but going through the motions as a means of like community building and shit. And it's pretty fucking cool, TBH.
right. Yeah, and I always think of that. I don't. Some of the Phil Bros say it like um, you can't really. Well, I mean you can, but it makes it more difficult to take away an aspect of somebody's faith. Like um, their belief system, and then not replace it with something. Have you heard that argument?
I've heard
You have to
bits
have
and pieces
something to
along
hold
those
its place.
lines. I don't think that's valid. It's like with science, right? Like we can take our models for how reality works and acknowledge there are shortcomings, there are holes in the models without throwing out the whole model. Like Newton's gravity, for example. We always knew that it couldn't explain Mercury, but it was useful. It could explain everything else very, very well. So we just acknowledged that there was a gap in our understanding and that eventually somebody would figure it out. And that somebody happened to be Einstein. He gave us general relativity, which did account for Mercury and explain it and make other predictions that Newton couldn't match, and so on and so forth. But just because there's a hole in the ideology, you might say, doesn't necessarily mean you have to throw out the entire worldview, I guess, to try to apply the analogy.
Yeah, yeah. Just like without the Ten Commandments, most people still aren't inclined to go and commit murder and stuff.
Right. Like
Yeah.
that's not a thing that most people want to do. And there's evolutionary reasons for it. Like we're disinclined to murder each other because we ourselves do not want to be murdered by someone else in turn.
Yeah, yeah. And now we have a pretty robust legal system that offers for real, punishments in the here and now that we can also be fearful of rather than eternal punishments or whatever, um, as offered to us
In
by
theory.
some religions. Yeah, in theory,
Yeah.
Eh,
We've always had a problem with the crime of passion stuff because by their very nature, people aren't thinking of legal consequences in the moment. They're overcome with rage or anger or whatever the case may be, and they just do the crime. And like punishing them after the fact, it doesn't help that either that person, and it doesn't actually dissuade any other crime because the next person to commit a crime of passion also isn't thinking about the consequences. The only reason it makes any sense in terms of a legal structure and framework is for consistency. If your priority is justice, then you can't take these high end crimes and just not do anything about them because it undermines how can you regulate jaywalking if you won't punish a murderer? It doesn't make any sense. So if you're going to have justice, you have to have justice all the way through, or at least a reasonable attempt, since we can't achieve true justice, not with humans anyway.
Yeah. And I think there's an important point there on the matter of like what justice truly is versus like the concept of righteousness. Like you have this concept of in like
Righteousness.
law enforcement and things like that, where you have like the righteous kill, right? Where you appear to be justified, but in actuality, you are appealing to the emotional state of that person at the time, right?
I suppose there's, and that's a big problem with the way humans understand things, is because obviously emotionality is the antithesis of rationality. You can be rational and feel emotions, but you can't put emotions above rationality and still call it rational. Like, no, you have set rationality aside to do that. So that's not what that means. Righteousness, I don't know. That term has always bugged me because it reminds me so much of the people who are more concerned with being right than with being correct. Because a correct person will accept when they're mistaken so they can stop being wrong and start being correct. But a right person, a righteous person, must be right, no matter how incorrect the information seems to be. And that's when you start getting that toxic behavior of twisting things and all that sort of nonsense. And it always leads to bad results. Now, that isn't necessarily the same thing as righteousness, but they seem to go hand in hand a lot.
Yeah, and it so much appeals to um, that sense that your emotions are actually, or your intuitions rather, kind of connectedness there, are leading you towards the correct conclusion, and a lot of the way people get there is by saying, well, that's God. God told me to do that, right?
Yeah.
And they believe that in virtue of yeah, in virtue of these stories that they've heard.
The Holy Spirit moved me to murder that jaywalker. Therefore, it is righteous. It's virtuous even. I should be given a medal, despite the fact that you think I just committed murder. You know?
And we've seen some pretty damn near that strange of cases actually fly in court in some cases. You get the right judge, and he's a believer and you're a believer. I mean, that's one possible outcome. I don't know in the case of the jaywalker, but in other cases, certainly, a person of color was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then
Or any minority, really. I mean, we've had everything from women are responsible for their own rape because, I mean, why didn't she check her drink for roofies before drinking it? Like that's really on her own head, actually, and it would be a crime to punish this man because he has such a promising future. So, it's her fault. So, like, everything from that all the way through, well, that trans person was trans in front of me and therefore deserved to die, you know? Like, every minority you can think of, and by minority I mean legally disadvantaged, not necessarily
right.
population, because demographics wise, women make up 51% of the population, give or take, depending on the country, but still marginalized.
Yeah, tend to have far less social, lower social status, less actual power, where it matters in politics and economics and stuff like that. Um, I so I don't want to. I feel like we could go on to that one as like a complete tangent, but relating it
Oh,
back
I am made of
to the
tangents. You
Bible,
know
I
this
mean,
by now.
yeah, I know that's me too. I
Tangents are
mean, a
what
little
we
bit.
do here. I mean, technically,
Um,
we're already on a tangent. I just popped in real quick to explain about the Trump business in the Bible verse, and here we are talking about social
oh yeah,
justice and shit.
it's beautiful. I think we can relate that back to the Bible a bit though, because there's
Do
another
we have to?
um, well, we don't have to. There's another sense in which the Bible is partially responsible for that, or has at least like propagated that idea. And then you get like the Andrew Wilsons out here or whatever is basically that um, all women or any type of marginalized people only get their rights because of strong men, and if strong men want to just take their rights away, they are free to do that. And that's kind of like the whole um, biblical conception of like male superiority, and in group kind of mentality, right? Because even that just applied to the Israelites early on, right? And then they said, well, okay, you could do this with your fellow Israelites. You're going to keep these laws, but any outsiders, we can just disregard that, right?
I don't even know if it's really that deep. It strikes me as like it's not even tribalism. It's just basic barbarism. Like people like Andrew, their central hypothesis seems to be, but what if we just rejected morals and were just brutal to each other? Like what if we just acted like animals and no civility, no conscience, no culture. We just killed and raped and took what we wanted. Who's going to stop us actually? And they seem to be trying to test that hypothesis. Who is going to stop them? Will anyone?
Right. And yeah, the toxic masculinity there. Oh, we have a taker. What's up, Jay? Welcome in.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. We kind of got
Um, it's Kevin, right?
yeah, yeah.
Kevin. Oh, I heard you say we have a taker. I don't know what you were talking about there, but I can
Well,
try.
you're now our the Christian in the room. So we had kind of gone into some tangential topics, but ultimately, I mean the title of the stream was should atheists or atheists, if you will, study holy books? And I don't know if you wanted to offer thoughts
Oh
on that, or
yeah.
if you had something else you.
Well, I would focus in on the word should and question you back. Why should or why ought the atheist do anything?
Well, we have to do something. I mean, so we had offered um, a few thoughts on that. Like, there's the aspect of know your enemy, as one thing. If we're secular people, if we're talking about combating against religious fundamentalism, then we would have to know what they are actually talking about in order to really address it and not create a straw man. So that's one.
You think that a Christian
Another
or
reason is there could be valid. Hmm?
oh, you consider a Christian your enemy?
I wouldn't say Christians in general, but I would just say religious fundamentalists. That's the way I consider it. Yeah.
Why would that be your enemy?
Well, for
Fundamentalism
me,
has
I,
a
I think,
tendency of being dangerous for everybody, including the believers.
What did you
yeah.
say? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I said fundamentalism has a tendency of being dangerous for everybody, including the believers.
Yeah, I don't understand you being or them being your enemy, though. Maybe
Well, I
it's
mean,
not.
any type
Go
of
ahead.
fundamentalism is going to be at odds with religious fundamentalism. I keep reiterating that it is going to be at odds with any type of secular worldview, or if you're
Yeah,
trying to have a secular position in society, then your belief is your dogmas are no more valuable than anybody else's, right?
your dogma is no more valuable coming from which worldview?
Any worldview that's based on an ancient holy book.
The atheist, if the atheist is going to claim someone as their enemy or something is more or less valuable, the fundamentalist typically is going to ask how they know that, what standard they rely on to make that claim, etc.
Well, I could just say that we have the Secular Humanist Manifesto, and I can get many of the same values using better reason than just God said so.
When you say a better reason, how do you articulate such a claim?
I would say that is something that is the argument itself will be logically sound and valid. It won't be authoritative, and also it will be true through uh, through its utility over time.
Sound and valid is good, but if utility is the value, it's an arbitrary value, right? You're just deciding it has utility for
Well, now we could
yourself,
show that it
maybe.
has utility if it works for most people.
So the people it doesn't work for, and
Well,
just
it
get
doesn't
left
have to
out.
necessarily work for everyone. It simply has to do a better job of the alternative systems being proposed. You want to select the best possible option because there isn't a perfect option, with the understanding that possibilities can get better with further revision.
The better, though, the idea of better is up to the beholder. It's subjective, right?
It'd be values based, certainly.
The values are also subjective up to the beholder. It sounds like it's
Necessarily.
going to,
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like it's going to just be subjectivism stacked up as high as you can, trying to get an agreement. But if someone disagrees, you said it's, Kevin, you said it was non authoritative. So, what is the thrust or the power behind it? What is holding it in place as relevant?
Sorry. Um,
Rationality, empathy, persuasiveness, human compassion, all sorts of things.
yeah, I agree with all those.
Well, those things are assumed to be good from a Christian worldview. From the atheist worldview, when we ask why compassion is good, I would look at somebody like Friedrich Nietzsche, who was uh, an evolutionist. He thought compassion was weakness, and he made a good argument for it. Have you ever
I,
heard that notion?
so I actually, yes, and I disagree with that. I think Nietzsche's very misunderstood in that sense. He does present that argument as a hypothetical construct, but then he kind of circles back to why the moral framework is necessary. So he is saying that you would indeed be weaker by that objective standard, but that it is necessary for us to act with compassion regardless. You know the quote where he says that one must be cautious when fighting monsters that they do not become a monster. I kind of butchered that, but to that effect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the thing about those claims in Nietzsche is that he's pulling necessity into the argument, which is going to rely on universals.
Well,
So,
it seems to me that goodness, excuse me. Nietzsche's general thrust was that everything was about the will to power. And so his main argument seemed to be, at least to me, and I could be misunderstanding, is that compassion is just a disguised form of will to power, sort of
yeah,
like how altruism is, some people believe, ultimately a selfish act, that you want other people to think of you as a good person more than you actually want to be a good person. I
yeah,
don't I don't necessarily agree, however, because even though Nietzsche can argue that some people think that way, or he could say he thinks that way, it's not accurate to say everyone thinks that way, because I don't think that way, and I'm
sure.
part of everyone.
Right. And the thing about Nietzsche, say, versus a fundamentalist is the fundamentalist has a standard that they're utilizing when making a point or making an argument. If Nietzsche or someone relying on evolution is making an argument, the problem is going to be David Hume's problem. You can't get the ought from the is. You can't get the moral imperative from what is the case.
That seems to be confusing a few different things. First of all, evolution has nothing to do with it. Second, the is
Well,
ought problem is a bit more rarefied and nuanced in philosophical terms. But I would take us back to where we said earlier that all of our motivations come from prioritized value systems. So we already have the oughts. We're already focused on outcomes. We're saying, if we already have the if we want more positive outcomes for more people, then we ought to blank, like support building more hospitals, for example.
well, there's all these assumptions baked in what you're saying. The better, the shoulds. What I'm saying is David Hume was an atheist. Are you familiar with him?
A little bit. Induction guy.
Yeah, right. Induction. He came to the point where he said, I can't justify induction in my worldview, yet it's always present. I'm always assuming the future is going to be like the past, but as an atheist and empiricist, I have no reason that I can justify that. That would go into morals as well. That's where you can't get an ought from it is from David Hume.
Sure, and that's why even moral people are capable of error, even when they have the best intentions in mind. Induction, just because a thing has been good in the past and resulted in positive outcomes, it can still be a mistake in a future series of events. That's why we try to do more than just program ourselves like robots and go based on formulas that other people have decided are the best way to live or whatever. And we have to make our own decisions. And we understand we still are going to screw up, which is why we stay cognizant and try to course correct when we see an error happening. And when we don't manage to, we are able to say we're sorry and try to make amends for it.
Well, do you accept arbitrary morality, arbitrary reasoning?
I'd wonder what you mean by arbitrary, because I don't
Well,
think so.
if you think that we ought to build more hospitals, and someone says we ought to destroy hospitals, which seems crazy, I understand that. But they might argue that your claim of what you want and what you think is good and the greater good is actually arbitrary. And their opposing view is just as valid based on your structure or your worldview, the way you're thinking about these things.
I don't know that a worldview necessarily has relevance for a specific argument. It can
Well,
be
if
the
you're making an argument, unless you're speaking for somebody else, you'd be making it from your purview, from your perspective, aka from your worldview.
no, I don't think that follows.
I assume right now when I'm talking to you that you're arguing from your worldview. Am I incorrect?
I'd have to parse that one a little bit. I dare say it's not a given, because while I do possess my worldview, I don't like have to consult my worldview to do my thinking, if that makes sense.
Well, when you do
Yeah,
your
I do want
thinking,
to interject a little bit because I think when you're what you're calling a worldview, and we don't consider atheism a worldview, right? But when we
well,
take
I mean, come on, it's part
our
of
a
our
value
philosophy.
judgment, if human flourishing is something that we value, then we can make those judgments based on that value, right?
Yeah, I understand. What I'm saying to you is you get a subjective idea, then you agree to it, and then you build on that. And I'm saying someone comes along and says, I don't agree with your subjective position from my perspective. It seems you're at odds there because you can't really say, well, I have the correct view on this and I'm
Well,
moving
that's
forward. You're
where,
saying this is just my opinion at best.
well,
But
no,
but by
because
definition, you're at
that's
odds
where,
with the rest of humanity in that position.
That's
Sorry,
okay. I
go
mean,
ahead, Heather.
that's not going to get us anywhere to say that we're at odds. We want to figure out what the right and the wrong are. Back to David Hume, we can't get that from what is.
but we can from our values, because we're already
Well, the
including.
values are also subjective, though. That's what I'm saying. You're just lumping on
Subjective
more
doesn't
subject.
mean you're wrong. We can adjust our positions when someone shows us through argument, rationality, evidence, outcomes, and so forth, that we ought to prioritize our values. We can
Yeah, I
do
don't
that.
disagree
We can
with what
prioritize
you're
our values.
saying so much, but it still begs the question of what the actual foundation is or the reason or authority behind what you're bringing forward. It just seems like it's one
Why does
person's
there need to
opinion that's trying to
be?
influence another personal opinion, right?
Well, that's the mischaracterization. That's the misrepresentation or misunderstanding, if I want to be a bit more generous about it, of
Well,
the way this
what
is
is it
being
then?
presented. Because
What
you're trying to set up these two things, this intersubjective system based on rational discussion on prioritized value systems that people have agreed upon and are subject to change, with someone else's arbitrary, whim-based, irrational, simple declaration of whatever the hell they feel like. And these are not the same.
that
But
what I'm saying to you is the irrational person, as you term them, who's trying to oppose what you're saying, they're just as valid as you are in your worldview.
no,
No. Okay. So if they're not just as valid, what is the standard in place, or what evaluation process do you use to point to them and say you are not as valid and here's why? And is that built on something concrete or objective, or is it just more subjectivity?
yeah, outcomes. Outcomes are concrete. If we say we build more hospitals, we have fewer dead people. That is a concrete result we can show.
I'm not talking about utility and results, though. I'm talking about the commitment before the argument, what you're bringing into the discussion. It sounds like you have a bunch of opinions, and I'm wondering if there's anything concrete prior to the opinion that you're basing it on. Because ultimately, your belief system is going to fall back on dogmatism and irrationality that's blended with rationality.
Yeah, but let me interject here, guys, for a moment, and welcome everybody. I'm glad you're all here.
Yeah, I have
I
to pop
gotta,
out.
Welcome,
So
buddy.
I
I'll
gotta tell you, yeah, no, I gotta tell you that different people have different opinions, have different values to their system. Their beliefs are completely different. If they believe in one thing, they'll believe in something else too. Um,
Oh,
the actual question we should be asking here, not just should atheists study holy books, because I think they should, because I think it's important for learning. If for anything, I mean, if an atheist wants to learn about some other view besides their own, saying they need to be protective of what their own body, their own self, and society is, well, then why not? Why not let them? Why not read? Like, why not let them read it? Like read the Bible, or if you want to go, let's just say, why don't you read the Book of Mormon? Okay, you want to learn something else about some other religion, read about them. Or if you want to read the Torah, go ahead and travel to the Middle East and read about that. What's the harm? I mean, all you're going to do is look at their point of view, then you look at your point of view, and then you go, oh, okay. So are there any similarities between the two of us? Maybe. Is there anything that we believe that they could believe in? Sure, maybe. But at least that gives them a foundation, right? It gives them right. Gio's correct. It's a good idea to study anything. Keep an open mind. That question everything. That's what I was taught. When I grew up in school, I was
And
taught to question everything.
yeah, I appreciate that, Mikey. And I want to apologize, Amber, if I cut you off or anything. I'm not sure. I might have had a bit of a lag, but Amber, of course, you're welcome to come back if you'd like. So, um, but yeah, I mean, so this has been so there's two sides of this that I found fascinating that I heard from the atheist perspective was basically somebody was disparaging others, saying, "Why would you atheists study the Bible? How could there possibly be any utility in that?"
Sure.
And
I wouldn't
then
have
from the other
an issue
side
with it.
too.
Oh, sure. But and I'm not going to claim myself to be deeply religious, not at all. But what I'm trying to say is that I think it's a wide open field when you've got atheists on one side and religious people that believe in God standing on another side. Why can't the two of them coexist? That's my whole deal about it. Why not have atheists read holy books? Why not religious people look at a more, let's say, more of a scientific side to a person than, say, faith, faith and science, right?
Do you realize that science relies on philosophies that are not
Sure
accounted
does.
for by
Of
science?
course.
Did you
Of
realize
course.
that it takes faith?
Yeah.
That
Yes.
includes faith. So
Yes.
why are you trying to move towards science and away from faith?
Oh, no, I'm not
Something that
trying to move
includes-
towards science. Oh no, JG, quite the opposite. No,
Okay.
I'm trying to say that there are benefits on both sides. Why can't faith and science work together? Why can't they coexist?
They already do.
Right, exactly. That's my whole point. They do.
The whole
And
point
that
Well,
is
they do in some
That's
contexts,
why-
not
why
in
can't they-
others. I mean,
sure.
How's that your point, though?
like
Well, no, I'm just saying that the point of where my brother has asked, should they study holy books? Yes. I would say absolutely yes to learn.
Science is not going to get us to what we ought to do. Science gives us data, and when we get into
It just gives a firm.
when we get into
foundation.
let me finish. When we get into evaluating the data and making a decision,
Yes.
we're bringing in all sorts of assumptions and presuppositions about how we ought
We're
to
bringing
handle
our
data.
assumptions.
Okay,
Right.
You
Right.
just need to
Okay.
jump on that, right?
but
Go ahead.
Yeah.
back to what Ember's point was earlier as well, though, was that the science is what tells us whether or not what we're doing is actually having a positive effect on
No, it's
society,
not.
right? Like
No,
we need
no,
that
see, that's what I'm
data to
saying.
determine whether or not.
It's a positive.
Why
When you
not?
bring in the idea of a positive effect, that's going to be a moral system outside of science, because someone like Hitler would say that exterminating Jews is a positive effect, where you would likely disagree with that.
That's more of a demented effect.
A what?
Well, yeah, but that's
I would
not
call
a
it more
humanist
of a
approach.
demented-
That's
No, Hitler was trying to act like he knew that something he was doing was going to become a positive effect on population control, on other matters, but no. What happened?
Who are you to say that his
he
position
got
is
radical.
incorrect?
No, not radical. That's that's what. Well, I mean, if you go back to the Bible and you look at how zealots reacted to, they wanted Jesus Christ to run the entire world like an emperor, like something out of what Rome was doing, and that wasn't his, that wasn't Jesus's idea. That's not what he wanted. I mean, maybe in some respects, they were propping up, maybe the Germans were trying to prop up Adolf as somebody who wanted to, rule the world, but with a kind of a religious view. But it was too radical. It was a zealot. That's but he just went the wrong way. Napoleon did the same thing. I mean,
are you saying the wrong way based on the Bible and your worldview, or based on the Bible but not your worldview.
I'm based on both Bible and worldview. I'm using the two. I'm trying to use them together to bring
Well,
about context here.
Are you a Bible believer?
Yes, I read it.
Okay. So yeah, in your worldview, people made in the image of God.
Yeah, but worldview. When you
Let
talk
me
about world,
try
I'm
to finish my sentence before you start yours.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It sounds like in a biblical worldview,
yes,
that we're made in the image of God. So for Hitler to, obviously murder people would be outside of that worldview. I'm trying to figure out though how from an atheistic or a secular worldview, Hitler did anything wrong that amounts to anything more than an opinion that comes from a manifesto.
I guess what you would call is that he went beyond the brief. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Maybe.
Because it seems to me a secular manifesto or humanist manifesto leaves the door open for anyone's morality to be suggested or of equal value, but then they move to a numbers game or a consensus game or an ad populum saying, well, we agree on this, and the most of us do, so we're going to make that what we call right, and we're going to negate the opposers. But that's not a real standard that's going to move into a logical fallacy as a foundation.
Well, wouldn't it have something to do with interpretation too? I've always said that when you read the Bible, when anyone reads the Bible, they come out with it with a different interpretation of what they read. Everybody has a different opinion about it. So maybe.
So I'm gonna.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I'm sorry. I want to jump in and welcome Robin. Yes, not this crap again. Yeah, but so I think there's a couple misunderstandings there. Was one is that Hitler's his main priority was not actually like he didn't come from a Christian worldview. He appealed to Christian worldview, but he did that within the reference to nationalism and genetic and moral superiority. So he first presupposed that the Germans were, the Übermensch and were genetically, morally superior to all other cultures, and then proceeded from there. The fact that he appealed to Christianity doesn't make that a Christian worldview, right?
They felt subjugated. Okay, we all know that after World War I, there was a lot of reparations. I think things that were done the wrong way. Germans immediately felt like they were, I like to use the word that Robin just used, like underrepresented. Okay, so they felt like they needed to establish dominance again, and like you said, Kevin, maybe that what Adolf brought, that nationalism. Okay, so you use that under that guise, and you say, okay, well, let's get national. Let's make sure that, because remember they had a thing against Jews, so maybe they said, well, the Jews are running things, they're controlling everything. Well, what about our piece of the pie? Why can't we say, as Germans said back then, in the early, and don't forget, remember that after the war, you had the Depression and everything else was going on later on, and everybody was suffering, but it seemed like the Germans thought they were suffering worse. So, it was just steps. That's all it took. It was just a few steps to get them to where they were. Now, going back to Napoleon real quick, well, the same thing happened with France. Like what happened to France during their period of Reformation, things were going on. And like they all felt like they were left out and, being abused and whatever. And Napoleon said, hey, well, why not? Why can't we become a more dominant power? Let's become national ourselves. Well, there you are. There was like parallel paths they took, but I mean, it's what's interesting is when you see, you had like what was it, Pol Pot back in Chile, or even Maduro, you could probably say recent, if you want to talk about recent times in Venezuela, before he got spirited off. They've all got this feel of nationalism. Maybe they're atheists, maybe they're not. Well, what the point is that they felt they were doing things the right way, but obviously other people looked at it and said, oh, no, you're a dictator. You're abusing, you're subjugating your people to abuse. You don't care. And, it's, so, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just, it's weird. It's just weird how that works out. But, but I mean, come on. I mean, I'm just trying to get back to the point of saying, like, yeah, I think atheists should have a chance to study holy text. I think they should. Why should they be? Why should they be told no? They can't. They can't read these things.
They shouldn't be. They can absolutely study it. The problem, I would say, is when they try to argue against it.
Yeah. Well, again,
But how can you argue against it if you have not studied it?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
You can't.
But even
Yeah,
when
you
you study it and argue against it, what I'm saying to you is, what happens when your system comes into place, your worldview, like the standard you rely on to point out that something in the Bible is wrong or something is inaccurate or something is immoral. You're going to be questioned on what your standard is in order to make that claim.
It's that's funny, Big John, but that's okay. I honor opinions. You could say Jesus was a fascist. You could say he was a zealot, but I mean, I think Jesus was just a naturalist. I think he wanted to, in one respect, that's what I say, because I think, but at the end of the Bible, Jesus wins. No, it's more that not just Jesus, it's his Father, it's God that wins. God knows all. Remember, God is everything to us that believe in faith and have that. And I don't, if you think that's what Jesus was, that's fine. That's your opinion.
Well, it is his opinion, because if you ask
to reply to Tog here real quick,
what's wrong with fascism, he's ultimately going to rely on his feelings, is he not? He's just going to say, I don't like that as a secularist. That's as best as it's going to get. So when you say, well, I do like that, well, then you're on a level playing ground with the worldview that he's coming from. That's what I'm saying. When you have the secular manifesto or humanist manifesto, I don't know if you watch Andrew Wilson and Craig, I forget his last name. Wilson was pointing this out to him. By his manifesto, he can have slaves in his basement. And that's not actually wrong. It's just not what Craig prefers. And what's the problem? And, Craig was getting all upset by that, but his manifesto did allow for that, because it's void of any true moral agency, which is back to David Hume. The secular humanist is looking at the world as it just is. And then they impose a moral system based on the feelings and try to get people to agree with that.
I need to push back on that, because I think there is specific prohibition against enslaving other people or forcing them to anything against their autonomy, right? That is in the Humanist Manifesto.
Yeah, but okay, that's a good point. So if it's in the manifesto that pushing against someone's autonomy is wrong, we ask what the authority behind the manifesto is.
Well, there's no authority. It's an agreement amongst humans.
So if you disagree, so you just disagree with the manifesto and it has no power.
Well, the manifesto has all the power that we give to it, just as the Ten Commandments do.
So it's
the Ten Commandments have no authority if God is not enforcing them. Like if God isn't just smiting down everybody who commits a murder, then it's incumbent upon human beings to actually enforce that law, right?
No. If you're going to try to compare the scribble of the manifesto with the word of God, you're going to need an argument in place of why one is more powerful than the other, why one is more authoritative than the other.
Because with humanism, we know that humans are going to enforce the law. And with the commandments, we know that humans are going to enforce the law. So either way, you're still stuck with humans doing the dirty work, regardless of whether you say it came from God or not.
Well, when you say the law, the Christian worldview is considering God's law non-arbitrary, binding to all creatures. The secular manifesto doesn't make a claim like that. It's non-authoritative. So it's an arbitrary position, an arbitrary law that you've got to get people to agree with. So there's a difference there. And then
Muslims in many parts of the world disagree with you. And many Muslims in different parts of the world will disagree with you, and they will enforce their own set of laws based on their holy text,
not solving the problem. It's not solving the problem. It's not solving the problem that's being proposed to you, though.
Well, then maybe I'm not understanding the problem. How is it that if a text is in a holy book, that makes the law more or less salient if humans are still doing the enforcement of said law? Like, it'd be one thing if we had another global flood and then I could see God punishing everybody for their transgressions, right? But we have yet to see something like that happen.
Well, now you're
So
imposing
who is
something that
actually?
you need to see as evidence before you believe something. But for some reason, you decided to believe the Communist Manifesto. But at the same time, you say it's not binding and non-authoritative. So I'm not sure what you're actually doing here. You're just saying my opinion as of right now is I like this thing, and I don't like the other thing. That's all you've given so far.
Well, yeah, we're trying to get people to come to an agreement based on reason and
Well,
not
when you say see,
by
this is the
by
thing
the
when people say reason is interesting because they assume reasoning is a neutral territory, but the reason behind the reasoning, what you're actually reasoning, is not neutral territory. It's embedded with assumptions, presuppositions, opinions, the worldview that you hold that brings a certain reason to the table and then starts to argue it. So reasoning is not neutral. If you're arguing from a position that's a non-God position, and I'm arguing from a position that starts with God, we are not going to reason the same way.
I'm I'm a little lost on that. And sorry, I did have to censor
Yeah,
chat a little bit. That was a
I know I might have went off
little too
with
far
there,
for
but I'm
me.
saying reasoning is not a neutral term. I hear this a lot. Like, how do you dispute the Christian worldview? How do you dispute God? That people say like logic and reason. The question becomes whose reasons? What reasoning? It's not a matter of reasoning being neutral. You see what I mean? Like anytime you're reasoning, it can be questioned the validity of the ideas and the reasons that you're using while engaging. They're not neutral. They're part of your
No, that's
worldview.
true, but the conclusion that can be reached would be neutral if both parties can come to the same conclusion.
Yeah,
Right?
if they
We
can,
Well,
can agree that murder is wrong for different reasons, but as long as we agree that murder is wrong, we're in moral agreement.
yeah. Well, there are certain things. There are things that are certain in life. We know that we're all going to be taxed. We know that. We know
yeah,
that death is
different
certain.
places.
We know that death is certain. It's going to come to everybody. Every single person that's on this earth is going to die. That's inevitable. It's going to happen. So we're all aware of that.
Well, from a
But
Christian
it's
worldview, you might be able to make a
no, no,
claim.
no, no. It's not just a Christian worldview.
How can
Even
an
atheists,
atheist make a claim about all people? How can they make a
well,
universal?
an atheist can also say, "Hey, but I have a moral. I have my mortality is there. I know
Well,
I'm going to
that's an
die."
assumption. That's like David Hume's problem, right? It's an
It's,
assumption that because that
it's
people
not
have
an
died.
assumption because it's a certainty.
It is an assumption. It's not the atheist worldview doesn't look in general. If you want to make a specific case, in general, the atheist worldview doesn't claim any certainty, Mikey,
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is though. That
because their
doesn't make sense.
epistemology is barren. That's part of the problem with the worldview of the secularist or the atheist. When you get down to bare bones of what they know, what is certain, it tends to be an answer like, "Well, I can't be certain of anything." This is why their epistemology is something that you can go after, including,
Right.
the morality and ethical system.
Okay, let me ask a question.
Well,
Now,
I'm gonna push back on that a little bit real quick because I don't think there's any singular monolithic atheist worldview, just as I don't think there is a monolithic singular Christian worldview. I just don't think uh, that's realistic. And but on the topic of certainty, I can say there are things that I am certain of right now. Like I am certain that I am alive on this planet having this conversation with you guys. I can be pretty darn certain of that. Now, if that's going to continue to be the case tomorrow, I can't say, right? But I know my experience in the here and the now for certain is what I am experiencing, even if solipsism is true. Like that doesn't change the nature of my experience.
yeah, I feel like discussions like this are more necessary because it opens everyone's minds. It gives them to an idea that there is something other than what they know. something other that they know for their own minds, their own certainty. And whether or not that's a good thing is really up to debate. It really is, and that's why debates like this are wholesome. I think they are definitely necessary. And if that is a worldview I have, well, there you go. That's what I believe in. But it's like I say, I don't take it just from what the world of men believe in, or women, or children, or whatever. I also take it from my faith, and my faith in God is strong. I always believe that. And I want to know that there are people out there, whether or not they're searching or whether or not they say they found themselves already. That's great. I mean, we can agree to disagree. That is the best. That is one of the best phrases I've ever heard, is that we can agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, when we can both coexist and say that we respect each other's boundaries and their worldviews and their opinions, then I think we'll be a better world for it. Yeah, maybe we can reach that point in time where we can all become, closer together and say, hey, there is something to this or something to that, who knows? But I mean, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. It just takes time. That's really what I was trying to say.
Well, I think if you're a Bible believer, that you can read within the scriptures that we're never going to get there. That Paul talks in Romans, we ought not follow the patterns of this world. But as far as loving our neighbor and loving even our enemies, loving all the atheists, we are commanded to. So it's not about making enemies, but about witnessing to what we know as the truth.
Right.
And the
standards.
It was
never the interpretation, and I just want to stop you there just for a moment, Jay. What I was going to say is the interpretation to me is that all persons are equal in God's eyes. We're all put on this earth for a mission. We're all given that mission. I believe this very strongly because recently I had a heart attack. I'm 60 years old. I mean, I've been around for a while, and I've seen things that probably would scare people, things that would make people taken aback and say, "Oh, okay." And I even had my one NDE, my near-death experience. But in that moment of clarity, and I mean, it only lasted for a minute, and in that moment of clarity, there wasn't any stupendous me out of my body or anything else was going on. I was alone for 1 minute in complete darkness. There wasn't anything else going on. Just me, just standing there, not knowing, there wasn't anything else around me. And all of a sudden I hear 4 words, which said, "Mission not done yet." That's all I heard. And then all of a sudden I was reawakened. My voice was, starting to come back to me. And I was being yelled at in my full name, Michael, not Mikey, but I was named Michael like about 3 different times. And I woke back up to reality. Now, was that a near-death experience? I don't know. It felt like I was just alone for an entire minute. But, but that's weird because the moment, even though I felt alone, I didn't think I was alone because, was God there with me? Sure. Why not? I'd like to believe that. I also like to believe that for that minute, I was going to say, should I go somewhere? And no, I was meant to stay on the earth and complete my mission, So, I mean, that's how I feel about that. And now I feel like after that awakening that I received, that message I got of having the heart attack in the first place, I'm feeling like now there's a lot more things I should do, go to places, do things, get a deeper perspective. I feel like I didn't have that before, but maybe just maybe there's little incidents like that you've got to have in life to have that epiphany. And that's what I had. So I'm glad about that.
Well, I would say that's not a small thing, Mikey, and I'm glad that you are recovering well and everything.
Thank you.
Like an NDE and having heart complications is, it's a real concern, and it can definitely put things in perspective.
Yeah, a lot.
Like, and it brought up a couple of things for me that, like, in my mission, one of the reasons that I asked this question here, and in the church that I've been attending, and I asked myself a couple of things, was like, is it
TLC.
did I think that maybe I would, be able to grow in faith just by merely being exposed to this, right? If I lacked in faith to begin with, then I just allow myself to be exposed to this, to read and consider the text and all of that. And I don't think so much that's what's happened. I really do think that, like, most of what has what I've felt as a matter of connection has been in response to those real human connections that have been established through that community, right?
Right.
Which kind of brings me back to humanism. But one of the things that I appreciate about the church that I'm in is that their belief structure, as far as it's been explained to me, does not just incorporate Christians. In their worldview, under this belief structure, it incorporates everybody. All people have a mission, whether or not they know or acknowledge it, whether regardless of religion or atheism or any of that. All of those people have a place in the plan, and all are valuable. And so that's
Yeah.
one thing that I've seen that I think is more exceptional.
And I think that's vital. And JG, that's why when you look at yourself, I mean, when you wake up in the morning, you look at yourself and you go, yeah, I value who I am. I value what I am and what I do for life. And I know many, and as I say, there are a few atheists I knew in this life. I will admit to that for sure. But they also had a very personal view about themselves. But I did ask them one question. I said, well, what's important is that you believe in yourself and you believe in everything you stand for and everything you reason and everything you do. However, you got to ask yourself one question. You say, well, how did I come to be then? What was I just formed out of sand? Was I just formed out of some pebble on a beach that did I actually come from apes? You gotta have an open mind about it. You just got to say, well, hey, I'm an atheist. Okay, I can believe in that. But I tell them, look, if you want to look at yourselves, look beyond the physical, look beyond your outside of of yourself. Look inward. Try to examine yourself in more detail. Read the holy books. Read, open your mind. Like I say, question everything. Don't believe what others tell you. Don't believe the religious figures who try to downtrodden you
but
and
that's
say that
interesting because
you're irrelevant.
if we apply that to what you're saying, then we discard what you just said. You see?
Well, I don't discard what I said.
No, you're saying things we ought to do, and then you say you don't believe others. There's a
Well,
negation
no,
there that you
what
didn't
you
get.
do, well, is
You're
it?
one of the others.
Well, okay. What I'm trying to say is it selfish not to believe in yourself? Is it?
What do you mean believe in yourself?
What I mean, believe in yourself. That is what atheists have, don't they? They have a general belief
But
in themselves.
what I'm saying is, what does that mean? It sounds void of.
What does that mean? It does. What it means is what I just said. You have a belief in yourself. When you're an atheist,
You're just giving me a circular answer there.
Well, does it come in? But does it come into your sphere? That's a circular view, right? It's your sphere of influence. It's your sphere of what you do, how you say
Maybe
things.
maybe if I can try to present what I hear from a different perspective, is, Mikey, you're kind of saying that it would be more egregious for me to just give up on myself and embrace nihilism rather than try to take up a positive position as an atheist or a humanist, right?
Yes, to a degree, correct.
Is that
Yeah,
something?
and I'm saying that your position is parallel to nihilism. That's where I'm coming from, Kevin.
Okay.
Because there's a way to further challenge the assumptions, the a priori commitments, that which is prior to the claims you're making, that shows that it's based in nothingness, which is nihilism.
Okay, but do atheists believe in themselves? Is that not true?
again, I'm not clear on what that actually means. I have an
Well,
idea, but
okay. As I say, there are people that believe in God. That's
there's
respectable.
like a materialist saying, yes, I believe in my cellular energy. Like, where does that get us, right?
Right.
What's up, Q? Jump on in. Much love. Sorry.
Hey, generation. Yeah. I'm just saying that like I said, I have spoken to a few atheists in my life, and I respect them as a person, as a friend, and I respect their beliefs, and I respect what they feel. And, and I'll never condemn them because they were good friends. Some of them are still good friends to this day. So I will never disregard or make them, what one of the our persons, one of the chatters said that they're underrepresented. No, not in my view. I think that they have valid arguments. They have valid reasoning, and they should be allowed to speak, and they should be allowed to do whatever they need to do to get through life. And if that means to read a holy book, absolutely do it.
Well, I see what you're saying. I look at Kevin, and I think Kevin is a kind, reasonable atheist.
And I think that you're a kind, reasonable person too, Jay. So what's the problem?
Well, what I'm saying is I come from a different field of study where I do think I can challenge a secularist or humanist or an atheist and show that their arguments are not sound.
But we're on sound mind, right?
At the foundation.
Yes.
So, but that doesn't mean that I should be hateful to Kevin or I should aggravate him, but he's decent enough in my interactions with him to have these conversations. So
sure, Jay, sure. No
it's
worries.
fine. I don't talk to him often, but I don't find
agree to disagree, but you still remain friends at the end of the day. Is that the most important thing?
It's not the most important, but it is important. Yes.
Yes. I'll bet we agree.
If I come in and try to smash Kevin apart and call him stupid and an idiot, what effect is that going to have as a witness, right? It's not the correct methodology. But I do think that I'm at a point where I can show and demonstrate with a conversation one-on-one with most any atheist that they're not standing on anything. All they have is opinions at best. That's not me being hateful. I'm not trying to be hateful or aggravating. But in fact, it becomes very aggravating to the person on the other side of this conversation. And it's understandably so.
Well, not to me. I feel like I'm a bit of I feel like I want to be, sometimes I feel like I'd like to be a difference maker. I'd like to say, hey, I'm being respectful of anyone's opinion. Look, if they choose not to believe in God, I'm not going to condemn them and smite them and say, yeah, I'm going to force you to believe in what I believe in.
No. We just turn up the heat.
I don't go to that. I will never ever go to that.
We can turn up the heat on you and get you and force you into the area you don't want to be in. Like if someone starts saying, I condone like harming children in different ways, you're going to eventually have to say, no, that I don't agree to disagree type of thing. Wow. Like there's positions that can be taken that can make you non-agreeable. I mean,
there are assumptions you can make that I could say, well, no, maybe I don't agree with that. But I mean, but if that's something you want to embrace, well, who am I to argue? I know what
who are you to argue?
I mean, seriously, murder is one thing we can both agree is deadly, is dangerous, is brings you down a dark path. I think we can agree on that. And let's say if you abuse an animal,
Oh, really? You're a vegan?
I'm not a vegan, no.
Okay, so you don't abuse animals, but you let other people.
I don't abuse animals. I love animals.
So you eat them?
I mean, I can't condone.
Well, you love the ones you don't eat.
I can't condone what people do to them for survival. I mean, it's
So do you love them? You love them and you eat them? What is it?
Well, I guess you can't have both. I guess.
Well, you sound like you do.
But I embrace
you can slaughter them humanely.
Yes, you can.
True.
That's one possibility.
I guess I mean, I guess, but you're going to have to know that, of course, it's against their will. They're going to move away from, any sort of blade or pain that you're bringing. But this just reminds me of veganism. Like, it's speciesism, right? Like when you say you love animals, but then you're eating a ham sandwich. It's funny because like you love your dog and your cat, and you eat the cow and the pig and the chicken. So that becomes speciesism. Like you have a selective way of viewing the animal kingdom and say, oh, I'm going to eat those ones and I'm going to love and pet those ones.
I just, like I said, I feel that because of what I just went through, I'm trying to get a better look at life in general, and I'm trying to see what is acceptable, what isn't. Maybe in a better light, in a better context. Does my faith
and
in
to try
God
to steel man a little bit, like what you were saying there, Mikey, was that even as a Christian, you can appreciate and acknowledge that secular people can come to the correct moral conclusions without having that influence, right? I mean, is that something
well,
like
if you're saying without divine help, yes, I've seen instances of that. I have seen that. Yes. Does that make them any less of a person? No, not in my.
See, we were talking about this last time, Kevin, like coming to the same conclusion, but then realizing that the pathway there was not the same. And I disagree with you here, because if you say that murder is wrong and I say murder is wrong, and you're like, okay, it's cool, we both agree. But then I say, well, how do you know murder is wrong? And you say, because your cat told you. I'm not going to just sit on that like, well, he's got the right conclusion, so it's all good. If you're going to tell me the reason is your cat
but
told you,
what if my cat has divine information or divine knowledge that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, I'm going to question
that.
Hey,
cats are very intuitive. Okay, they actually do have kind of this power over people.
Cats are interesting, but what I'm pointing out here, I'm hoping that you guys are gathering, is that it still comes into question how you got to the conclusion you got to. I think that's the essence of these discussions, these theist versus non-theist discussions, is we agree on many, many things. It's the pathway to the agreement of a conclusion is where we differ.
Right.
Welcome, Q. Good to see you.
Welcome, Q.
Yeah. What's up?
I like that.
I don't know if you want to weigh in on. Yeah. Q's is our resident ginger. I think Q predates Wildheart on this channel. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Well, nope. I'm not gonna.
Most people
You're not gonna weigh on that one.
I'm not gonna weigh in on that one. I'll get in trouble. So.
Did you have any thoughts? Did you want to talk about either the conversation we were just having or the topic generally? Should atheists study holy books? Bring your thoughts.
I mean, okay, so I think that I don't think anybody should have to do anything. I think that if you want to have, it's kind of like someone going in blindly about music, right? You have to know what you're talking about in order to be able to talk about it, in my opinion. Otherwise you're just kind of pulling things out of your butt.
You have to have a general knowledge right there, Q. You got it about anything, really. If you've been studying, you don't have to necessarily study books, right? You can observe. I learned music by ear because by listening.
Well, I don't know, because here's the, like, I don't want to sound disrespectful when I say this, but to learn by ear is a little bit more dangerous than to learn by, like, I'm sorry. Today has been a bad ADHD brain day, so my brain's all over the place.
That's never a good thing.
Unmedicated and unregulated. Let's go. So
hey,
anyway,
why not? More fun, right? You have more fun that way.
it's more something, all right. We'll say that much.
For sure.
But what I'm trying to say is basically like even before I became a believer again, like I always believed in asking questions and testing things that I didn't understand. And I think people should do that no matter what it is, whether it's religion, whether it's uh why somebody likes something or why someone's telling you this. I've always been the type of person to believe that like you should form your own opinions and test them against things.
Right. You are following what I've been trying to do most of my life is question everything. I was taught that at a very early age by two wonderful people, my mother and my father, who I'm blessed to still have in this life. People I know, even my beautiful wife Suzanne, don't have those their parents anymore. They don't have
Yeah.
that foundation, and I still do, and I'm very blessed about that. But I like learning, understanding other perspectives. I don't I don't like. Here's the thing. See, I believe in God because to me, God is the end all be all in heaven, in the universe. But when it comes to Earth here, Earth is a different realm. This is where we, as a people around the world, try to learn about each other and what why do we exist, and would it be wrong to say that no one else outside of our sphere of this earth exists? I think that there are other races that exist. Absolutely, I believe in that. But as of yet, maybe we haven't seen the evidence. But then again, I'm getting into aliens and things like that, and I know that's kind of a weird thing, but but the fact is that the one thing you have said, which is correct, is that everyone, and I mean anyone or everyone, should question everything they know or see or do, anything that happens, anything
Yeah.
they learn. I mean, and that's important. I mean, and yeah, if you like, JG has probably learned something about me. I'm sure I learned about him. I learned a lot about my friend Trustee 8, Kevin. He's a great man. He does what he can in life, and I like to think I know you now, Q, since you use the yin and yang. That we do have two sides to all of us. So, you know, it's a great thing. It's wonderful to get to know people, and atheists are not. I think when we ask should they read the holy books, I think it's because are we devaluing their intelligence? No, not by a long shot. We want them to learn. We want them to read these books. I think it's necessary and informative to them. If they have a different opinion about it, that's fine. I mean, but at least they're taking the time to peruse a book or said book or audio book or whatever they do to learn. I think that's important, and that's why they're as highly valued as, say, yourself or anyone else you encounter. No one should be ever
Yeah, and
devalued.
chime in there. Yeah, I think knowledge is power, right? Like,
Absolutely, that's been
you
claimed
can
that, and
never
it's
suffer for being more knowledgeable about any given topic.
yeah, but it
Um,
doesn't put you above
I,
anybody else, Kevin. That's the important thing. It puts you on an equal footing.
true.
It puts you on
Well,
equal
actually,
value, equal ground.
Ecclesiastes teaches that knowledge is suffering. Wisdom will bring suffering.
Yeah, if you guys
Well,
want
yeah,
to,
but that
I
happens
don't
to
know.
anybody.
That's where I disagree with the Bible.
See, I don't know if you guys
But
can
that's
hear it,
also
but
in Genesis. Sorry, yeah,
I
go
don't know
ahead,
if you
Q.
guys can hear it, but my voice is all jacked up, and knowledge has a little bit of pain because I've been recording some music, and my friend that's been helping me with it was like, "Hey man, maybe we should warm up," and I'm like, "Nah, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna go straight into it." Now I can barely talk at my normal octave. So,
Well, maybe to walk that back a bit, maybe knowledge can feel like suffering at first until you learn how to
uh,
wield it, right? You have
Think
yeah,
about this,
to be able to
Kevin. Think
wield it
about like
properly.
when you find out about like
It's
a huge pedophile ring that exists like in the next town over. Like that knowledge is going to bring you pain.
yeah.
For instance,
Well,
Man,
that happens in life. We know when we read about certain things. You're going to read about the pain. You're going to read about suffering. You're going to read about knowing that there are people out there with uh, hostile intentions that you may not have thought about any, previously. You may think that every single person. I think if you go into, let's say you go into a brand new neighborhood and you think that every single person you've encountered in that neighborhood is a good person, and I put the good in the quotes, obviously, but then you realize, over time, from what you learn, that there aren't so many good people in this neighborhood you've dealt with, and and then you think, well, that's because over time you question them, you ask them things, you looked at the way they handled themselves in life daily, and other things are going on, and then you say, well, should I move from this neighborhood? Like, if you find more bad people than good, then what do you say to yourself? Should I just go ahead and move? Should I just do that? Would
Yeah.
it be any better
Well,
if I went into
this is
another
always
town?
kind of true, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like if we're not living with somebody, if we're not with them all the time, we have no idea what they do behind closed doors, and they could be absolutely despicable to us, and we'd have no idea because outwardly they could portray
Sure.
themselves in a more
Sure.
positive light, right?
Yes.
Um, but I don't think it's reasonable for us to just automatically distrust our neighbors without having the knowledge of that. Like we should have a reason first to distrust somebody based on something that we know, not something that we're
Correct.
speculating about.
Correct.
I want to welcome I don't Reason and ScienceCatsboard.com. That's Otangelo's profile picture? If that's Otangelo, hello. Um,
Yes.
Kevin, can I share
I
a 1
seem
minute
to
clip?
recall seeing Otangelo here before.
Oh,
Yeah,
Kevin,
go for it.
can I
And
share
also
1 minute
welcome to
clip?
Wallace Rudolph. Yeah, go for it.
It was based on, I think Nietzsche was mentioned, and this suffering from awareness is mentioned too. So it's relevant to what we were discussing. Let me see if I can.
I think I have to stop my screen 1 second. Here we go.
See. Yeah. So I shared that there. So just a little clip here.
Truest words. The truest words was from Nietzsche when he said that any man who knows too much can't fit in anywhere. And that's the curse of awareness. Once you start to delve underneath the surface, that's when you realize this whole world, it's not so simple. And you start to notice who people really are and the games they're playing, and that fake confidence, all the ulterior motives. And you realize this whole society, it's built on lies. And people, they're sheep. And once you see that, you can't unsee that. So you try and tell people, but they say to you, no, you're overreacting, you are crazy. So you stop talking, but you're still observing, you're still watching, but you know you don't belong anymore. And it's not because you think you're too good for anyone. No, it's because you've seen too much and you're watching everything, and now you know you can't go back to how it was anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that in some ways. I feel like that's kind of how I arrived where I'm at too, was kind of from that mentality that before I got into like any of this online stuff for a long time, I just went around not really talking about my views or what I thought because I believed that I was this outlier that like, if I told people how I really felt, that I would probably be, you know, alienated more than I already was, right?
Did you feel like an outsider, Kevin? I mean, have
Well, yeah,
there
I mean,
been
I've
times in
always
your life
felt
that
that way
you
to some
felt
extent.
outside the influence? Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that like
yeah,
in being honest, oftentimes you're subject to more scrutiny. right? Because anytime you're very blunt and honest with people, then all of a sudden you have to worry about who you're offending,
Right.
and so that's like another part of it.
Sure. And that, but then that, that does cause some people to, I've seen it because it's happened to me before. It causes them to withdraw within themselves and then just say, well, should I really go out there and talk to anybody? Because whatever I say, you know, could offend most people. And then and I can see, believe me, I can see where some people become what they call themselves hermits, right? At one time, said that they didn't want to, deal with the world because the world can't deal with them, and so they just go within themselves. And I've seen that, and it does happen. Um,
Well,
I don't
I
want to
became
be
more of a subversive,
a
right? So
subversive.
I wouldn't talk about this stuff, but I would go out and I would write songs that were deeply
Yeah.
offensive to some people, and then I would go out to your local bar and go and play those songs and give you the finger, and then walk away without ever having a conversation.
Beatniks used to do that. That's something I remember back in the day. Uh, my parents grew up in a society, in the mid, 50s and 60s. They were just starting to come across what they call beatniks who had their own opinion and would stand up in front of people in a bar, and just, become, and they were outspoken people, and they started talking about themselves, talk about life and how bad it was and things going on. But that was their deal. Lenny Bruce was one of those famous guys that did that. um you know but I mean, I was born later, and I had to look up these people. I had to look up what a lot of those people were doing. uh you know they were angry at the world, they were angry at God, they were angry at everything. um yeah, and maybe, I looked at them and I said, oh, wait a second, there's some validity to some things they say, but then other things you were like, no, I can't agree with that. I got to disagree with that. But I feel like and I'm not trying, and JG and Kevin and Q don't feel like I'm trying to pigeonhole, but what I'm saying is, like, uh, when I look at atheists feel like, well, yes, we do have valid opinions. Yes, we do have valid agreements and disagreements, and things are said and done. But I think what it is that they're what they say, to some degree, is misrepresented or misinterpreted. And when it comes to a Christian like myself or others, we feel like they should be labeled as, less of a person. No, and that's where I draw the line. I said, no, you can't do that. We're all equal in God's eyes. We're all equal. We were all equal in Jesus' time, and that's where my faith kicks in. I'm like, yeah, we're equal people. Yeah, we do bad things, but we were given free will. That's another concept that throws people. It's like, we were given free will. Yes, we were. That's what God said. He says it in the Bible. He says it in Genesis. He says it in Exodus. He says it in all these different books in the Old Testament, is that we were given that free
Well,
will.
you mean it's implied. The word doesn't
It's
actually
implied,
imply.
right? It's interpreted as implied. Yes,
Yeah,
implication.
that we're interactive. We're making choices. We either choose to obey
Yes.
or disobey, etc. But I
Yeah.
got to drop out, so I'll just say real quick. Thank you, Kevin. Good to meet you, Mikey, and I'm glad you're back
No,
in the
thank
faith
you. Thank
too.
you, JG, for
Take care,
joining us.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, Jay. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm probably going to wrap up in a few minutes here. I know I threatened to burn out my streaming hours, but it was actually more than I bargained for. But if anybody else wants to come in and chime in, we may leave it running a few more minutes. But yeah, I thought we kind of uh, ran the gamut there and went into a whole lot of topics that were necessary to kind of, keep this conversation going. And it's the is from the ought question: what should you do? Well, you're here, so in my opinion, I think we should try to learn as much as possible about the world we live in and the people we live in it with, as we can before we meet our natural end. And then whatever happens after that, I guess, is a matter of speculation.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's everybody else's thoughts?
Well, I want to say one other thing about I believe it's been determined, Kevin, that isolationism is a death sentence. If you become isolated and you don't like to interact, I think it's you know it's not only detrimental uh, to yourself, but I also think that it doesn't give the world a chance to experience you as a person, as a legitimate person that has ideas and opinions and thoughts. You the world realizes at that point it's a waste. You know, they didn't get to know you. They didn't get to know you, and that's to me that is why isolationism needs to stop. I think we need to. I see it a lot lately. I think that we just need to get back together to what we felt was important when we had families. Let's bring the families back together. When we, whatever we decide to do, whether we worship or not in homes or buildings or anything, sure, we should bring back community, sense of self. Um, it all needs to come back. We just, I just feel like we this happened in school. We had cliques. We had people that went off to one thing, to another thing, another group, another group. That was the beginning. That is where I saw it, to where it's like, no, everybody was going off in their own direction. And that was not the thing that should have happened. What we should have done is we should have had more um, councils and things like that. We should have had more discussions, talks. So yeah, isolationism is bad. If you want to call that an evil, it is, because that is something we should not have. But that being said, I mean, right? I mean, society is going to continue to learn. Let's hope they do. Let's hope we continue to learn and see where we come to. There's always hope.
True that.
There's always hope. There's always hope.
Thank you.
And welcome, hey,
and welcome, Bree. Oh.
So can you hear me? I don't know if my
we got you.
To the right. Sometimes my mic flips over to the wrong.
It's a little bit low, but not bad. I can hear you.
Let me see if it's set up right. Okay, there's the right camera. All right.
Hi, Bree.
Hello. So I did want to come in earlier because everybody's bashing their heads against Hume's law of induction, right? And it's like there's no right position on that. It's all because you have to induct Hume's law of induction. It's like it's circular to try to argue about that. And I think a lot of people use that to kind of browbeat that their personal God is real, because anything else besides their own personal faith and their personal experience is somebody else inducting it, right? Like it's not even objective. They just claim their own personal perspective, like their own holy book exists outside of induction. But yeah, when we get into that kind of problem, it really everybody's starting from the same position, even if you think that your book puts you ahead of everybody else, because I don't believe your book, right? No matter which holy book it is. I love the folklore. I read them all. I love, I've read the Bible, read more than one version of the Bible, more than 3 versions of the Bible. I've read, I've read parts of the Quran. I've never read the whole thing because I don't think I've ever had access to a fully translated one. I've read Mormon mythology. I've read Jehovah's Witnesses, the SJW. Or not SJW,
New World Translation, or?
JW Bible. I've in none of them at any point say that this exists outside of induction, right? That this book was written by somebody who exists outside of the world of induction, where we make decisions based on well-being and things like that. Even the Bible itself, they say that it's the Word of God. Then you have to accept the fact that that's the subject. God is the subject. He's not objective. He's an individual. I, as a person, can disagree with your God, even if he's omnipotent. Now that I can still, as an individual person, disagree with him, and all of a sudden, his beliefs or his position becomes subjective, and God's position becomes subject to Hume's rule of induction too. So now we're back at square one.
But having
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the prime mover argument, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
actually get you to which
Yeah.
God did the moving.
Right.
Like,
Right.
yeah.
It's an appeal to a vague, nebulous God that I'm just supposed to say your word wrote this book, and you're inducting that he wrote this book from your knowledge too. So even your knowledge of the God writing this book is induction. You're still falling into the same trap as the atheist or the secular person. And again, I'm not an atheist, so there's the secular person who you are arguing against and saying they don't have a grounding. You don't have you're all from on the same plate. You just believe because of your own induction that you're existing outside of that inductive reasoning.
Yeah.
Well,
Also,
anyway.
and just to point out, I did use the word atheist, which I'm toying with here, but I think this is like tantamount to the creationists calling us evolutionists, and I'm like, oh yes, then indeed my God is an ape, right? But I could just start making that argument
I
over
like
here.
that
So
actually. Like I'm a Gaianist, and I'm not like the new age kind of Gaianist. I love Lockean Gaianist, so like I think that we're all part of one connected giant superorganism, right? So anything that happens within that is can be weighed upon whether it's good or bad for that organism's existence. If we consider the existence of the organism as the good, right? But so maybe somebody out there has a reason, a subjective reason they think the whole organism should die, then that's their subjective reason. But if we can all agree that the existence of life, whether it's human life or just life in general, then we can start from that position, and we can all start from like a Lovelockian Gaianist position to say that the flourishing and survival of the whether you believe it, whether you're a Lovelockian Gaianist or not, and you believe it's a superorganism, or you want to refer to it as all life on Earth, whichever way you want to go through it. If we can start from the position that the life should continue to exist, then we can start from that position. And it's still induction, but at least we have a reasonable starting point that we could all probably agree on.
Well, we can all agree that when we go back to our when we die and we pass away and we go back into the dust that we became when we first started, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, as they always say. That has that Gaia view. That has that. Because you say
you return back into the system.
You return back into the system that you were created from. That exists. And that's great because when it comes to God brought the earth into existence, and that's Gaia. Gaia is earth, and then that's and that's what I believe in, and I mean that's that makes a lot of sense, and we're not nobody that's brought onto this earth. I don't think that anybody that's brought onto this earth was brought here by accident. I think there is a purpose to be served here for every single person. As I said, that's why there's a mission for every single individual that has to be accomplished. And whether that's your own personal mission or whether it's a mission for others, is totally open to interpretation. It's what you feel about yourself, and then you go from there. And I think that everybody has that same feeling, or at least I believe they have that same feeling. I can't claim that. So, but but you make great points there, Bree. And as I say,
I want to add in here, because you're talking about humans specifically. I don't believe that I'm any more important in the greater scheme of things than the mushroom growing in a cave that's never going to see the light of day. I have no indications I'm more important. I think a lot of the problem too stems from people thinking of since we're talking about apes here, anthropocentrism or human exceptionalism, that we are somehow special in the greater scheme of things. I just don't believe that. I don't see any reason to believe that. And no, I do not believe in magic. I'm not sure where that. I'm not that kind of witch. Not that kind of witch.
Can I just say something real quick?
Uh-huh.
You might not be a witch, but that fucking Lady Dimitrescu cosplay was pretty magical. I ain't gonna lie. I saw that shit.
Yeah. Oh, I am a witch. I'm just not a witch that believes in magic.
By the way, if you're not following Bria
Is that more
on
like
her social media sites, you should, because you fucking think.
I'm not a New Ager. I'm a Maleficaire. I'm a folk witch, whatever you want to call it. I enjoy using folklore and things like that to explore the nature of the universe and how the human race has interpreted it. But I'm not under no false
Right.
givings that there's actually magical influences in the universe.
My,
But there's real, maybe like psychological implications
Right.
behind the
Right,
invocations
like
and things like
ritual and divination and stuff like that is all psychological. Like if I pull out my Ouija board and start moving stuff on there, I'm not under any misgivings that I'm talking to a spirit from beyond. I know that I'm exploring my own psychology or my own psych. What's the word I'm looking for?
You're more
yeah,
Psychic
inner
energy.
bad side.
my own psyche. My own psyche. There we go. My own
Psyche.
psyche. In order to interpret what's going on inside my brain, like if I'm trying to make a decision or something, I know that based on it's the same as you flip a coin. You're not flipping the coin if you're trying to make a decision. You'll know exactly when you'll put it on your hand which one you actually wanted because you'll be disappointed if it's the wrong one. So it's the same kind of thing as like trying to infer information about yourself by using external processes. I know a lot of ACO pagans use like tarot cards and stuff, and those are even open to like personal interpretation. So what you see on a tarot card is going to be completely different than what somebody else interprets it as well. I mean, there's like certain parameters, but for the most part, it's open to interpretation.
I think my favorite thing out of all of those is the astrological signs, if I'm being honest. Because, like, I don't want to sound hateful, but, like, I've always called that space racism, and I'll explain why. Like, well, here's the thing, right? Because there are people who literally base their entire fucking life off of a star sign. And, like, I know not every one of them do it, but I know people that are like, oh yeah, I can't be friends with this star sign because I'm this star sign, and that star sign is like an evil asshole. And I'm like, my brother in Christ, they're not evil because they were born in July. You don't like them. Like it's kind of that kind of stuff. I don't know. Sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
We have somebody in the backstage who I am not familiar with. Does anybody know Spiritual Glitch?
I do not.
Benson Sykes?
Yeah.
All right.
Also, we might. Someone typed in that the Harry Potter books were evil. The Harry Potter books themselves are not evil, but J.K. Rowling very much is.
I wouldn't say evil, but she's definitely
No, I would definitely say she's an evil piece of shit.
I think that
go with the second one.
She's evil, but I don't consider her a totally evil person. I do.
I do that
way. I feel like J.K. Rowling's got maybe a different moral interpretation, and she wants to use the Harry Potter and the. Don't forget, she also helped in the Fantastic Beast books too. So
that's not why she's evil, buddy.
Okay, but what I'm saying
Spiritual Glitch, I just need to address, because I'm going to either kick them or not, but yeah, if you want to come in, you come on camera and do something so I know you're not a weirdo.
Let's see that face, come on.
But,
yeah.
I'm the only one on camera, so.
Oh, I don't have a camera anymore.
See? Ta-da! Right, see, there's Kevin.
A very gnomish beard of you, Mikey. I love your gnome beard.
Oh, thank you.
Mikey's got a great
computer
beard.
Doesn't.
I'm getting.
No, you're fine, Q. I was just worried about getting,
We all know what you look like, Q.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm also half naked, so I'm pretty sure nobody wants to see that shit. So.
Don't say that. It's okay. That's okay.
So I do want to say that what Q was exhibiting when talking about the star signs is typical Capricorn behavior. Just want to put that out there.
Hey! I told you that in confidence.
Well, did you know, Q, that Jesus is a Capricorn? He's a Capricorn too.
Ooh.
I mean, I don't really. The only reason why I know I'm a Capricorn is because it meant something to my mom. Really, that's about it.
My wife is a Gemini, and I'm a Virgo on the cusp of Libra. So.
I will say this though. I think the more interesting thing about birth months and stuff, in my opinion, are the birth stones. I think those are way cooler than like the star signs that people were born with. I don't know why, but
But I'd
I got
also
my
mean,
birthstone.
yeah, there you go. But see,
do you
when
know
you
what
talk about
January's
birthstones,
birthstone is? Bree?
January.
Yep.
No, not done. Which set of birthstones? Because there's a few different versions of birthstones.
I don't remember which one this one is called, but the one that I know of, it's garnet.
oh, it's a garnet.
Garnet.
Okay, it's blue. Yeah, garnet. Okay. See now,
Yes. So we both have a red birthstone because I'm a Cancer. So mine is this one right here. It's a ruby.
ruby red. Yeah,
Oh.
Cancer.
See, I didn't know that garnets are red because I'm colorblind. So.
Well, garnets are also blue, but not.
I'm
just
pretty
red.
sure I'm like a boring ass opal or something. Libra? I think
Bro,
we're
what do you
opals.
mean?
Yeah.
Those are cool as fuck. I love
Well, then
opals.
I'm a boring ass Virgo on the cusp of that, so I have both.
When's your
I'm a
birthday's in
September
October, isn't
baby.
it, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10-4.
Sorry, I didn't need to use your real name. Sorry, Ape.
That's
I'm
all right.
sorry.
No, you're good. I'm not secret about all that.
Oh.
I mean, I don't want to, like, I've already doxed myself. It's not really that important, but yeah, I'm just trying to really like separate the professional stuff that I'm doing right now, just to make sure that that doesn't like get out there,
Hey,
because it is,
if
yeah,
you
it's
wanna,
kind of like, yeah.
if you want to let that person in and just put me on full screen, we can do that if you want.
Oh no,
What
I
did you
already
say?
kicked them
We'll
because
put Bree.
they
We'll
just
put Bree.
they said some vague stuff inside chat about being naked and stuff. So they could be in the joke, but I'm not taking that chance right now. So
Well, I was making that joke out earlier when you first started streaming, and I was like, I'm naked, but that's
no,
because
yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
it's a full moon tonight, and I gotta charge my transgenderism. You can't just be.
Is it supposed to be a red?
Yo, I got hit with that. I got hit with that the other day. They're like, "Oh yeah, you got to charge your non-binaryism," and I'm like, "How do I do that?"
You go out. You need to go out and sit naked in the full moon. It's not that hard.
I was
right.
I was told that I
Make
have
sure
to
that your
steal the
butthole
gender
gets
of
light
other people.
exposure.
Yeah, perennial sunny, perennial
I was
mooning.
told-
I mean,
Yeah, Sonny.
Apparently, with the non-binary council, we're supposed to steal the gender of other people and leave them non-binary as well.
yeah.
I only have my shirt unbuttoned because it's hot as fuck out here, and I'm
Listen,
in an
I-
air-conditioned unit. So
You guys should be proud of me. At least I'm wearing pants.
I am in New Mexico. Guess how hot it is here right now?
112.
No, it's not even close to that yet. By
No.
August, it will be.
are you in
Yeah,
the 90s? Maybe low mid 90s.
About
Okay.
95 degrees out right now.
95
Yeah.
degrees. That sounds right.
Yeah.
I used to live.
Fuck all
I
that.
used to live in Arizona. I lived in Arizona for over 40 years, and it took me when I first, because I moved from California. Kevin lives in a part of the Bay Area I used to live in for a very short time when I was born there. But I moved to Arizona and I lived in 100+ degree heat. My wife got to experience 121 degrees, where literally she said, "Hey, I'm just going to put my head in the oven and leave it there." That's
Oh
how
my
hot
goodness.
it can get down there. That's the dryness. And everybody says, "Well, it's the dry heat." And I'd say, "Well, I've also lived in Oklahoma, which was draped in humidity. So,
Well,
I've been
I'm
here
actually-
in Toronto for the last 8 years. So, Canada.
I'm actually from like the Ozarks, and I'll tell you right now that
Ooh.
the humidity back east, like compared like at 95 degrees here, it's bad, but I can still go outside and take the dog for a walk and go potty and stuff and be fine. If you go outside like that in Missouri, in southern Missouri, you're going to be soaking wet when you get by the time you get back in.
So,
you'll
Bree, I
just
gotta-
be dripping.
Yeah.
Hey, Breen, do you know a band that was called the Ozark Mountain Daredevils? That's
like,
actually one of my
you want me
favorite
to get out my
bands.
harmonic? You want me to get out my harmonica and play Chicken Train for you?
Oh,
Fuck
nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I
damn
could.
nice.
Let's do
I
it.
used to play that for my dad. Well, because you got to play
I
the
will say I
song,
feel
otherwise it's
super
just
weak right
noises.
now. I feel super weak right now because I just looked it up and it's only like 80 degrees and sunny here right now, and it feels really hot. But I mean, I lived in Sacramento for 10 years, and so that was pretty radical. But I guess I've been back in the Bay too long. Like 80 degrees and sunny is
I
getting me
miss
all
I
wet.
miss fog.
All
Oh,
moist.
there's a sea breeze too. Q, you were going to ask me a question. What were you saying, babe?
Go ahead, Q.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was gonna say. So, did you do the cosplay for a con, or did you just do it for shiggles?
I do cosplay every Saturday morning for my show. The week before I was Jessica Rabbit. Did you see that one?
I didn't. The weekend before, I was a little preoccupied with some stuff. So,
And I think next week I'm doing.
I
Mia
love the
Wallace.
Jessica Rabbit. Yeah.
I'm doing Mia Wallace from Pulp Fiction next week.
You're doing Mia? You're wow.
It'll be my second time doing Mia. The first time I did the Mia in the dress, the scene from She's on the Bed, but this time I'm gonna do in the white shirt from when her and
John Travolta.
John Travolta's character, Vinny, her and Vinny going
when
on
they
their
were
date.
were in the bar, right? The restaurant.
So
So-
I'm gonna do that. So
I'm
Nice.
actually. I was talking to a couple of friends of mine who I do music with. And we were talking about what we want to do is in my hometown. They have those like old theater that like you can do like Broadway shows and shit on.
Yeah.
And we're talking about renting that out when we have enough money to do a musical performance on.
Yeah, are those are the ones? Those are the old style theater. They have those big, huge curtains, right? The red. And, yeah, and those are nice places to perform at.
It's gonna be a decent chunk of money, so it's not gonna be this year. It's probably gonna be next year. But
Good for that though. That's the experience alone. I remember the theater we used to go to back in the day called Cine Capri, and Cine Capri had those huge theater style. They had the old style red curtains, which my wife is blessed to see because what happened was they took this old theater house when they finally tore it down, and it had the arches, like Roman arches and things like that, which was so very cool. It gave you a really great perspective when you watch films and stuff. And then they brought it to another part of the Valley of the Sun there, and then I took my wife to see that. And I mean, it gives you it brings you back to like the 30s and 40s, like when you used to watch silent films and they had the big style curtains and they would open up and then you'd watch all that. It gave you great nostalgia. It really did.
the red velvet curtains, yeah.
Yeah, those red velvet are gorgeous. I love those curtains.
If everything goes to plan, Kev, I think you'll get a kick out of this. If everything goes to plan and we're able to do our show, we've all talked about dressing up as the Power Rangers.
Nice.
Yes.
And performing, like, not just like the outfit. We're talking like full fucking gear, the helmet, the outfit,
the whole thing.
We're talking about the original Power Rangers, right?
Yes, we are. Oh,
come
come on.
I used to have such a cool pink Ranger helmet. I wish I still had that. It was like a full size one too.
You dressed up as the Pink Ranger, Bree? I can definitely.
Well, that's the one that they want me to be, is the Pink Ranger, because I'm the shortest.
I'm Pink Ranger.
We'll have to do rock, paper, scissors here.
Yeah.
Well, no, so like I'm the
Johnson,
shortest.
man.
I'm the shortest in the group. And so like what we were talking about doing is my friend who's like 6'8", he's gonna be the Red Ranger, and then following the fucking height chart, basically, we're all gonna be a different one, and I'm gonna be the Pink Ranger. And what we were talking about,
I think it should be Billy. You should go as the Blue Ranger.
The Blue Ranger?
Yes. I think
I do
you
like
should be the Blue Ranger.
if anything,
Billy
I
was
want to
the
be.
short one. Wasn't he the short one? I think he was. Unless Trini was the Yellow Ranger was short, but
The one Ranger that I would.
Yeah,
love
I
to
think
be
she
is-
was the
is-
shortest Ranger for sure.
Trini was the shortest one. Okay. Yeah.
The one Ranger that I've always wanted to be was the White Ranger, but
Oh yeah.
I liked
I'm
the
not
Green
as-
Ranger. I was so upset when he became the White Ranger and lost his freaking Dragon Sword. That dude,
I
the
was
Dragon
too,
Sword was
Loki.
so cool.
I know.
But,
Then he became a
but-
Green Ranger.
So the reason why we were talking about doing the Power Rangers is because we're all working together on this D&D album, basically, and we are the name of the album is called the Powered Rangers because it's a class in D&D. So
Yeah. Just make sure you pass it by Saban, because Saban still owns it. You got to be able to talk to some representatives to make sure you're allowed to use it. It might be a
I
copy.
think you're fine with cosplaying, though. I mean, that's not like
Yeah,
really a big
cosplaying is
issue.
fine. Oh no, I don't have an issue with that. But I was saying that if you name your band as like the Powered Rangers,
Oh no,
I'm
no, that's
just
not
saying that.
like
Oh, okay.
our band isn't called that. That's just the name of the album.
Just the name of the album. Okay.
Right,
Well,
right.
it should be okay then. It should get by.
My favorite part
That'd
about
be interesting,
Save On
too.
is their contract with Toho, so they get to actually be like using the real kaiju and stuff, like the real
Toho
ones.
Limited, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I loved
We talking about the game Toho?
No, Toho,
No,
the
no,
people
no.
who make Godzilla and Mothra
Godzilla.
and all
They're
that.
Toho
Yeah.
Limited. They've been doing it for years. Like
My bad. When I hear
Miniature-
Toho,
Since
I think it's a
what
Pokemon
old-
game.
When did Ultraman come out? That was like in like 1964 or something like that. That's really.
It came out before I was alive. I knew it was like
Really?
because I was
That
born
long
in
ago?
65, so yeah, it was a while back.
It
That's
came
what-
out
that's where
in-
That's where
It came
Power
out-
Rangers come from. Sorry, go ahead, Q.
It's from
Ultraman came out July 17th, 1966.
Oh, okay.
Wow,
so
I thought it
year
was like the
after I
late
was
70s
born.
or early 80s or something.
But that's
No,
what spawned.
it came out 66. Yeah.
That's what spawned. I mean, that's the spiritual predecessor to the Power Rangers, to Kamen Rider, to even to Jet Jaguar from the Godzilla franchise.
God, I remember Jet
Yeah.
Jaguar. Oh man.
We're either gonna do Power Ranger stuff, or if I can lose the weight, we were talking about doing Bleach cosplay, and I would be Ichigo,
Okay.
obviously.
Yeah,
You just wear one of those body compression suits too, you know. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
No,
just-
so the goal, like, I'm starting a new job in like 2 days, and like my whole goal is to like, pay off all the fucking $10,000 worth of debt that I'm in.
nice.
But like, I want to start this new diet that my buddy showed me, so that way I can lose weight and then gain like 100 pounds back in muscle, because that's where I want to be. So, if I can lose the weight, we're talking about doing Bleach, just because like all of us are fucking
Well,
anime nerds.
That's a good
I want to
goal.
lose weight, but I'm not going to lose weight for a cosplay. Most of the people I want to cosplay are about my size.
I mostly just want to lose the weight because I'm tired of being fat. Like,
Yeah.
not gonna lie to you.
I've been forced to lose weight mostly because my heart attack I had that really did force me, and I'm proud to say I'm starting to lose gradually. My wife is you know what, my wife is the saint. I look up to her because she has lost so much weight, and I mean, I look to her to get some guidance and help. It's like, help me, honey, help me to lose some weight myself. And she's seeing it, so I'm like, okay, that's always good. So, yeah.
The
So,
one thing about
talking about weight loss, what do y'all think of like Ozempic and all that? Like using that to lose the weight?
Ozempic, I've never
I-
used it yet, so I can't say.
I do have a family member of mine who's been on it now for several months and stands by it. So they've had good experience, but I personally haven't. So
I haven't used it, and like I've heard good and bad stories about Ozempic. So like if it's working and it's not making you unhealthy, then go for it. But like, just be careful. That's all I can really say about
I would
it.
ask the doctor's opinion at least about it. I would. Whoever is fenced it or used
well,
it.
come on, Mikey. They're all getting paid off by the insurance companies. Of course, they're going to try to push the drugs. on you.
I'm just gonna go out and let a Gila
Pharmacies,
monster
yes,
monkey and hope for the
pharmacies.
best.
What was that,
Pharmacy-
You know that's made of Gila. The Gila monster venom is what they make Ozempic out of.
Is that true? Is that true?
Yeah, or it's synthesized. They don't actually going out and collecting Gila monsters, but it's a
Yeah.
synthesized
I
of the
did not know
compound
that
found in
because-
Gila monster venom. And it was that research, which people, you always see these conservatives complaining about government spending, like, oh, you're spending all this money to teach goldfish to read or some stupid shit like that. This is what the animal research is actually achieving, things like this. Like, we wouldn't have Ozempic if it hadn't been for some science nerds going out collecting lizards and testing their venom and looking at the
Wow.
compounds.
Yeah, what's wrong with teaching goldfish how to read, man? Y'all can send stupid fucking rich people to the bottom of the ocean, but we want to do
Robin!
something cool.
Hi, Robin. Welcome to the
Hello.
program.
Robin.
How are y'all?
Welcome in, Robin.
It's good to see everybody.
I want
good to see
my
you.
goldfish to learn how to read. Fuck, that'd be awesome.
I like for my cats to read.
Well, I think the most recent one that was a big outrage was, remember when they did the Doge thing, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, they're doing all this, using all this money to turn mice transgender. Oh no!" And it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
honey,
Crazy.
it's because people have hormones that we want to understand, and we use mice as a model animal. It's not that complicated. Trying to forget.
wasn't that reported by Alex Jones
Yeah.
at some point?
Well, Alex
Like,
Jones is famous for the
seems
frogs turning
consistent
the
with the
frogs
rhetoric,
gay.
Yeah, I love how he was just like he doubled down on that, and I'm like, my brain goes, but dude,
Well,
frogs.
I also think that came from when they found out that lizards in general were asexual. Like, okay,
Yeah, there's the ones that
but
can
they didn't,
reproduce through parthenogenesis.
something like
What
that.
kills me too is like we have the actual old timey experience where they're like giving lab rats cocaine for extended periods of time, but nobody, yeah, like, well, was that like how they figured out how to make the crack epidemic happen or whatever? Like,
Okay, well, you know how they used to. Okay, this is one thing I found out about mice experiments. I found out that when they did the mice and the mazes, right? And they said, okay, a regular mouse that just like can figure its way out and figure a way through the maze and we get there and whatever. Then they tried different drugs. They tried cocaine. They tried weed. They tried all sorts of different things on these mice and said, okay, let's see if they can still negotiate or navigate the maze. And some of them just had a weird reaction, and some just went weird into walls all the time and all this other stuff. And from those results, they said, okay, this is how a human's going to feel like when they take this drug or this particular thing or whatever else is going on. You know, it's just weird.
So I guess y'all are off the topic now.
Yeah, we're just kind of.
Or just
Yeah, I just want to say that like an actual in-depth study of the Gospels and the origin of the Gospels seems to lead to deconversion. That's what I have found. I don't know that it definitely we see a lot of people that go into seminary and leave the faith. So yeah, I encourage anybody to study them. Actually,
that's definitely
Kev.
something I've heard as well, Robin. Which was I thought an important point earlier. And we have gone far off the topic, but with everybody here, we were about to wrap it up, maybe. But if more people are coming in, I can keep going. Or if anybody has anything coming up, we could start with the shills.
I just wanted to jump in and say hi to everybody and let you know I had Robert from Skeptic Philosophy and Objective Ethics both streaming at this time, and so I was over there, so I was like, I didn't get to come in and say hi to everybody. But.
No, you're good. I appreciate it. No, I was watching Robert's stream before I started, and I didn't know OE was on, but both those guys are cool cats in my opinion, and I appreciate their work.
Yeah, they both start at 3 p.m. Central on Sundays. Drives me crazy. Because I like both sides. So I try to go by.
Some of these guys have like friendly competition going amongst them. I've noticed, so we know it's happening, and it's all.
The OE actually was first, and Robert. I've busted Robert a couple of times, but this is schedule that he worked out. I was like, do you know you made your show at the same time as OE's, but. So it like stresses me out there for a while, modding and trying to visit both of them. So.
Yeah, that's why I always try to tell people, like, I have, like, a couple of positions. Like, I mod pretty consistently at SNATA. That's, like, one thing I try to make a point to do, although I'm always lurking when I'm there. But, like, I try to make that pretty much consistently every week. But other than that, I just take it with a grain of salt. I'm like, I'll do my best, but, unless you're paying me, you get what you get.
I'm waiting on my check, but I'm still waiting on my check from protests too. So,
speaking of like chilling stuff, I'm actually trying to come back to doing YouTube stuff. Nothing like I used to do. I want to start doing interviews with people that I like. Like Bree, at some point, I want to get you on and have a fucking full-on conversation with just me and you. Kev, I always wanted to fucking talk to you. But like I think the main reason I took a huge break from YouTube in itself was it got toxic, and I kind of miss like having people around to talk to whenever I'm bored. So I've been kind of like writing scripts for interviews, and there one of the things that I wanted to do was that. And not I think I'm gonna do it once a month thing, but I'm gonna open up a like a show for people who are in recovery to come in if they want, talk, and kind of do like a NA/AA meeting with people. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I realized too before I had my attack, that I do need to get a little bit. I do. I used to be really active. I used to not, like exercise all the time and everything, but I would get out there a little bit more. And I do realize I need to do that more. Definitely not just for my health, but for other things. But I want to go back to what I started to do. Is what I want to go back to do is podcasts like that. I'd like to talk to interesting people. I'd like to talk to anybody at this point that has a couple hours to spend to talk about their life, talk about um, their how they feel about life and how they feel about others, and what their views are, and that is something I'm definitely trying to get into. I also really love doing pop culture. Um, I love anything. I mean, I feel like I've been alive for 60 years. I've seen everything. I think maybe not everything, but I've seen most things, and I experienced a lot of different shows and things like that, and they all have value. I mean, there's things that I've seen that do have value, and I like to express those certain shows. Like we'll be covering in a week or now from now, we'll be covering Charlie's Angels. There were 5 seasons where it empowered women, for 5 seasons, and in the '70s, which was a huge thing back then.
It
And
also empowered a lot of little girls that watched it too. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Like
yes.
that was like that was the only show that like we had a black and white little portable TV.
I remember those black and whites.
Yeah, it was a portable. It had the little antenna you pull up and stuff. And my dad wanted it at his work picnic, and so that was what I had in my room. And that was the only show that I was permitted to stay up past my bedtime and watch. Like whatever night it was on, I could stay up and watch that, and because it came on pretty, relatively late, like at 9 o'clock or something like that.
It had its what I liked about pop culture in general is that every show that I have done so far on my channel. This is my third channel now. I lost our previous one was hacked last year, and the one before I actually ran mostly by myself, but for about 8 years, and then I left it just practically back in Arizona where I was. But the shows that I've covered, I enjoy them because for me it's and I learned something new. What's great is I mostly go through IMDb, which I think, yes, in most cases it can be incomplete and you can't get almost all the information you need. But I do feel like maybe based on my personal experience of watching these shows and seeing what I saw, and I can use some of that. And I do get a positive feedback from that people want to say, well, this is something I didn't know about it before, but then you exposed it and said there was something new about it when you saw it for the first time, things like that. And that's what I like getting into. And like I said, if I do find time to do that, I will. I know my wife wanted me to also talk about the series MASH that lasted for so long, about the Korean War and all that stuff. And I said, well, sure, I could, easily do that because I wanted to learn a little bit more about that myself.
MASH was a whole culture on its own.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
All right. I think, and I appreciate the type of shows that Mikey's doing and other people I've found around that community. And it's a nice reprieve from having very serious conversations like the one we're having now, and being able to go have a watch party, appreciate the nostalgia, and like I grew up on that. Like I'm a little bit younger, but I used to watch like a lot of Nick at Night and stuff like that, and they'd have a lot of
Hell
those
yeah,
reruns
brother.
on. And
Yeah, I'm
There
old
you go.
enough to remember all that stuff. Like you should put your channel. Make sure you put his channel in the thing so I can subscribe to his channel.
Yo, Abe, you
Alright.
remember Toonami?
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Anime stuff. Yeah. Well, that's where most of
And
that, some of that Samurai Jack. You guys, we were talking about. I was just talking about where that's how Samurai Jack got started, and then Tartakovsky ends up doing the Clone Wars for Lucas when Lucas still ran the dang thing, until he gave
Oh,
it
he
up.
makes
Right, right.
Primal too. I love Primal.
Oh, Primal's cool.
Dude, did you guys see the ending of Primal yet?
No, I haven't seen that yet. No.
Oh fuck, it's oh.
If no, thanks, no.
I'm not gonna say nothing, but it was definitely like Primal. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of I have bad ADHD, and anybody that knows me knows that I knows that my autism and ADHD knows no bounds. So like it's really hard for me to get into like shows. So
Don't feel
when I
badly
first
about that, Q. I have Asperger's and ADHD. So.
But when I first watched Primal, I remember my buddy was just like, "Dude, you love Samurai Jack, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I fucking love that show."
Oh,
So they're just
love
like,
that.
"Yeah,
I
man,
watched every episode. I loved it. Yeah.
you gotta check this show out." So they sent me a link to Primal, and I think the first season was just out. And I binged watched it in in a day, and I was like, "All right, I need more of this." So I've always loved Primal.
Nice. Yeah. No, I loved his.
do we have
2 hours.
sorry, I don't want to get off on the entertainment stuff there, but while we're talking about entertainment and shills, if Robin and Bree had anything they were doing upcoming.
I do my show every Saturday morning at it's 9:30 Central, so do the math. But yeah, I don't know what we're doing yet this coming weekend because Saturday was just yesterday. But yesterday we had a fun show, so you can go back and watch that. I got a drag show live here in Las Cruces on the 28th. Other than that, yeah, it's just business as usual.
Hey, Bree, how long have you
Awesome.
lived?
And yeah, I
May ask
subscribed
you
to
how long you've
Bree's
lived in New
Red
Mexico?
Flags channel.
Yeah. How long have you lived in New Mexico, hon?
Well, I moved here from El Paso, so like it's just
Nice.
we're just like right across the border from Texas. Actually, right across the border from Mexico too. I've lived here since was it? I want to say October. I haven't been in New Mexico very long, but I've been in the Southwest. I was in El Paso for about a year and a half before that.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of pop culture, real quick, did you hear about what happened to Gene Hackman and his wife? Is that bizarre or what?
That was horrible.
Yeah, that was pretty strange.
That whole thing, plus like with caverns that he had underneath that had all that stuff. I'm like, wow. Okay, the man lived to be what, 95, and yeah, okay.
That's
Now, I
awful.
looked up Gene Hackman. I thought he was a legend. He still is, to my mind. He is.
He
Yeah.
is
Oh, he's
the
a great
original
actor,
Lex
for sure.
Luthor. Yeah,
Yes, he did. He played the best Lex Luthor, in my honest opinion.
that's my
I'm sorry.
opinion too.
I'm going against the guy who played him in Smallville and whatever. But no. Yeah, Gene Hackman was Lex Luthor to me. Yeah, absolutely.
And Robin, I know you've been doing a lot of stuff. Actually, so I'm hesitant to say this, but I kind of have known Trav for a bit, like from back in the day. Like he had already like done his stuff with Sam and Matt and all those guys. But
Yeah.
like his Discord server was much smaller when I used to join. And I've noticed you've gotten involved and you're helping him out with some very important work over there. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we are just starting out the project, so we're a long way from like even getting into the building part or anything. But Travis has planned to build at least one school. He always hopes to build more in Uganda. and like he's having to do like a lot of research to try to find out where a safe place to put it, because there is parts of Uganda that have a lot of like a lot of gang activity or criminal activity and
Yeah,
stuff.
they're the militias. They're the militias that are there. Their
Yeah.
own personal.
There are some parts of it that are a little safer than others, and we don't want to like do that and then somebody come in and just destroy it right away. But they're severely lacking in educational facilities. So Pangburn's going to build an education center. It's like we've got the floor plan like things and stuff, and we're going to dig wells and have a garden there too, so that there is clean water, and they're going to be solar powered, hopefully, and planning so they'll be self sufficient. So there won't be any kind of like cost with maintaining like the electric or anything like that with water. So he's got all that. It's big plans, and he put me in charge of the fundraising, which is like I feel like I was surprised when he asked me about doing it. So it's a kind of seems like a big
No,
goal.
that's a good idea, because women are better at fundraising and they're better at the economical side of it. That's why I have my wife handle all of our expenses.
Yeah, well, it's a big responsibility, but he also knows like I'm disabled now, so I don't work, so I have a little more time than a lot of other people in there. But I'm gonna, of course, as we get closer to that and figure out some of the details of that, then I'm gonna start doing some fundraising stuff for that and everything.
That sounds great, Robbie.
Yeah, but and I do on my channel. I do a lot of open panels. Sometimes I have topics. I don't have a set schedule. I have not ever figured out a set schedule yet, but I'm going to start. I do have a reason for this, but like I'm going to focus on a lot of evolution, which and I we wear it out. But I'm friends with some Christian channels, and they have really been focused on some really bad information on evolution in the last couple of weeks, and so I'm going to try to push back against some of that, and hopefully they will notice that maybe. Like it just, yeah. That
sounds like a great endeavor to me.
It sounds like a very good
appreciate
endeavor.
you doing that.
Yeah, I've reached out to Mike from Answers in Atheism and Austin Sims and stuff. But I like on Friday nights and Saturday nights, a lot of times I hope open panels because there's like not much for some people to do. But so it's always usually welcome to anybody as long as you're respectful to everybody there. But the people there, if you want to act up, I don't need you there. I guess that's what the word. But,
all right.
So I sometimes have a mixed bag. I have a mixed bag sometimes. There are a lot of people there that don't like each other sometimes. It seems like, but because I might have some Christians show up, and I've got a few people that I know that are not popular with other crowds, but so far they've behaved, and as long as they do, I've let them come back. So. But
we get a bit of that here too, but I definitely appreciate what you've been doing, Rob, and big love and a lot of support. I think you're definitely branching out here in all the right ways, and just
I don't know how to make videos, so I do all live stream because I don't know how to. I'm technologically challenged very much, so.
Sometimes making videos could be more time consuming than it's worth. It's just more expensive, So.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm gonna step down and.
Yeah, I gotta bounce too.
And I love your hair.
Thank you. Hey, real quick,
love the red hair.
Bree, before you leave, because I don't know if I'm gonna see you again. Happy Pride Month.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, start tomorrow.
Happy Pride Month. Yeah.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to be a part of chat tomorrow, our show is going to be talking about milestones. I have two good friends of mine I've known for almost my entire life. 50 years I've known since we were kids, and also I've been pleasantly singing, doing a little songwriting, not a lot, but I've been doing that for about 30 years since my very first divorce I had two of them, but I found the right lady in Suzanne, my beautiful wife, and we've been happily together for 16 years, so I'm very happy about that. And
Congratulations.
for about 20 years, this coming November 30th, 2006, well, actually 20 years that I've been a YouTube creator, going through 3 different channels. This is our 3rd channel together. And so I'm basically doing an early celebration of that tomorrow on June 1st. So that it's going to be on the Mikey Sue's here. The Chatty Blogger MS is my title of our channel. It's right below me there. That's going to start at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if anybody wants to drop by, say hello in the chat. And I'm going to hopefully try to get a few special panelists up there. My best friend, like I said, I've known 50 years. Larry is a good guy. Kevin knows him. I think he's met him through Be Yourself Adventures. He's seen him. And also one of my other best friends, James, who I've known for that amount of time. It's just going to be a nice little gathering. And yeah, we'll just talk about, milestones, things we've done in life, and what we hope to achieve later in the future. So that's coming up tomorrow. That's what I got coming so far. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. And for anybody who has wrenches, you can click on the user in the chat there who has a wrench and hit go to channel and sub to them. Otherwise, I will put everybody's at handle in the the whatever box thing down there once we're done with the stream. And other than that, I'm gonna end it though. So much
Real-
love, be kind,
Oh.
be well. Okay, go ahead, Q. You get one. One last.
I was gonna say the only other thing that I'm gonna be doing is streaming video games. So come check me out.
All right.
Awesome. Cool.
Much love, be kind, be well, and stay trusty. And maybe we'll see you next time. Have a great week, everybody.
Good boy.